If we can have our city clerk lead us in the invocation and flag salute.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Please join me. Almighty and Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to gather here today. We ask that you will be in our midst. Father, we humbly ask that you be with this community and that you guide this city council as they face the matters that will be discussed and the decisions they are called to make, and may they be pleasing to you. Please be with our community and help us to grow and be kind and understanding to each other. Continue to grant us peace, keep us in your loving arms, protect our family, friends, and our beautiful community. We love you and praise you. In your precious name we pray. Amen. Please join me in the flag salute. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Trumbull?
Here.
Councilmember Roa? Here. Councilmember Farfan?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Alvarado?
Here.
Mayor Maravilla?
Here.
Madam Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Tonight we do not have any proclamations or certificates. Do we have any presentations from our librarian or video presentations of city events? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move some items out of order. The first item that I'd like to pull out of order are items C2, C3, and C4. Other than that, after that, we'll go back to the public hearing, followed by discussion item C1 and the remainder of the consent or the discussion items. Any objection to that? Okay, seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda organization as stated?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Item C2. So at this moment, we're going to allow for public comment. This is for the entire agenda at this moment. Because items C2, 3, and 4 are regular discussion items, just to remind the public, at the 2 council meetings ago, we did revert back to have one opportunity for public comment in the beginning of the agenda. So now is that time for public hearing A1. That will have its own set of opportunities for public comment. But for right now, anyone that would like to discuss or comment on any other item on the agenda, now is the time. Do we have any comments on the agenda in general, on any item except A1? Now is the time. Or general public comment. Mm-hmm.
My name is Frances Rodriguez. I live on Britton Street. And I went through that program where they removed the bars from the houses. And I would like to thank Roa for coming up with that suggestion. That works really well for me. I got the cameras installed. The people from Amtech Security were very nice, very professional. I felt comfortable with them doing all this stuff on my house. Mr. Hernandez, the contractor, he was very nice too. Selena, she's great. I love her. She's a good employee. And I just want to thank you for that. Now for the bad news. Public safety is the most important thing that came up in that survey. And you have public safety officers who are not real police officers, but a lot of people have that impression that they are. So I thought that was supposed to be on the agenda today, because you had requested it, right? And also there was supposed to be a report on what they're doing, because from what I see, they listen to the dispatch radio from the Lakewood Sheriff. So when they hear a call come in, they will go there when the officers get there. But all they do is sit in their truck. They're not allowed to go out and interface with any of those people that are there. When a unit goes out on a call, there's a follow unit. And so there's always 2 officers that are there to handle that situation. Public safety does not have to be there. Public safety needs to be giving tickets to vehicles that are parked in the street. We have too many cars in the street. So there's people that have a bunch of cars. Everybody knows that. That's always been a big issue. That's one of the big issues on that survey. So we got to do something. Something has to be done. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other general public comment or public comment on the other items, we'll now move to item C2. This is resolution number 113-2019, and we'll also discuss C3 and 4 together. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Bashir, can you assist with the screens? Got it. Thank you. Madam Mayor, members of City Council, this is a continuation of discussions we've had dating back to May of this year with regards to the budget, or initially started in the budget, but we followed up with meetings talking about the issue related to the cart club and the dangers in the state initiative to reduce those revenues, in addition to a sales tax measure and county takes of local dollars. So I'll kind of go through that briefly. If you have questions, you can ask me during the presentation or after, because again, we've discussed it quite a bit. But this action is similar to what was approved in Lakewood last week. And also the cities of Cerritos, Bellflower, Paramount, and Long Beach are either approved it or in the process of taking the same issue to their residents for a vote. And that's what's before you tonight, essentially, is not, you are not approving a tax, you're simply approving or authorizing the public to make that decision. So this is an outline of the discussions we've had related to this item.
Mr. Hernandez.
Yes, sir.
I hate to interrupt, but do we get to respond to her comments?
No.
Don't we respond to her comments? Wasn't that
So you can
public comment?
You can make council comments, right? If the mayor.
Yes. Can they wait till the end?
Okay,
just
sure.
because we
Okay.
have a lot of agenda items.
All right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to spend some time today. You know, again, we discussed this in detail during several city council meetings and several study sessions. But essentially, we're going to spend time today talking about both the state attacks on the card clubs and city services, and the background on county, LA County tax takes that take revenues from this community and spend it on several items. So again, going back to the main issue here with regards to a related action on today's agenda related to declaring a fiscal emergency to put this on the March ballot, the State Attorney General's Office and the Bureau of Gambling, Gaming and Gambling, essentially is trying to change rules related to the card club and the card club revenues. As you know, card club revenues represent the largest source of resources for our city. The regulations, or the attempt to change regulations, really is looking to change rules that have been in place for over 20 years. To date, and this started back well over a year ago now, they have not provided, the State Attorney General's Office has not provided a reason or exactly what it is that they're looking to change, other than they're essentially looking at affecting revenues as much as 50% of what we receive now from card club fees. The card club itself, right now, it represents 68% of our city's general fund, which that pays for almost every service that we provide. And obviously, when we discussed this and the negative impacts of that decision, we talked about the challenges it would present to our city and the negative impact to programs and services really across the board, to include essential government services such as public safety, public works, basic, why we exist as city government. In addition to that discussion, we spent some time talking about LA County tax measures that essentially collect sales tax measures from this community and spend it on other resources. LA County voters have passed every single measure that's been set before them, or a variation of that measure. For example, in March 2017, voters passed the Homeless Initiative, Measure H. as you know, we've been dealing with that situation here and across the county, but let me go back to the previous slide. So what that tax measure did is essentially it takes dollars that are generated in this community to the tune of $272,000 and directs them to the county for their complete control. As you know, we've applied for grants and a variety of issues trying to capture some of those dollars back. But there's no guarantee that that's having a direct impact. Certainly not a dollar-for-dollar impact on this community. Obviously, it's for a good regional purpose and a problem that we have in the community. But it certainly isn't a dollar-for-dollar benefit to the city that's taken from sales taxes derived in the city. So this is just a summary of the various LA County approved measures, both the rate and when they were approved and the purpose for what they were approved. In every case, you're looking, if you total those up, it's 2.25%, so almost $2 million equivalent, or over $2 million equivalent of sales tax dollars generated in Hawaiian Gardens given to the county for the many purposes outlined above. And again, these aren't bad programs. They serve a regional purpose and a local purpose also, but in rare occasions is it a dollar-to-dollar benefit. In other words, these dollars go, for example, I worked on a campaign against Measure M up there, which most of the cities in our region are going to be paying that sales tax and are not going to see a direct benefit for over 20 years. All that money is going to West LA and other areas of the county and not coming to our communities here. And so that's a great example of monies taken from this community, allocated to the county for a public good and a public purpose, but there is no direct benefit to us, at least not a dollar-for-dollar benefit. So the current sales tax is 9.5%, and this is how to the right is how the different taxing entities or different tax measures add up to the 9.5. So the 7.25 is the state tax. That includes the 1% that the city gets right now. So our 1% sales tax is equivalent to $950,000 that we get as part of our $18 million general fund. So that amount of money is collected. The rest, 9.5 or almost $8.5 million, goes to the different purposes outlined above. So I can briefly just describe what a sales tax is. You all know what a sales tax is, and the attorney can give you the specifics as to the legality of what is and what isn't. But I'll simply say that it's a consumption tax that you pay on when you buy goods and services. It does not apply for all goods and services, which I have a slide to outline that. But again, it's based on the current 9.5 sales tax rate. The maximum by statute allowed in the county is 10.25. Okay, so no matter what, it can't go above 10.25 unless there's some kind of state initiative rate. Okay. Now, the one benefit related to the sales tax, and in particular why a lot of communities are taking this to their residents for a vote, is that all of these taxes do not come from residents necessarily. So if you see up there, 42% comes from restaurants, and a large chunk of that comes from the restaurant and the food sales at the casino, which we know is not 100% residents. It's actually very little residents with regards to the casinos. And across the board, we've just estimated that for other restaurants and other sales like that, we're estimating 50% of that comes from residents, 50% comes from non-residents. And I think that's a very conservative, based on our HDL estimates. It's usually more non-residents than residents in most of these cases. As you know, we have restaurants here that are known throughout the region that people come to eat at, and so that's not raised, although our sales tax aren't paid by our residents necessarily. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. Here's just a quick example of where sales tax does apply and where it doesn't. Where it does not apply, for example, is groceries, unprepared foods, plants, livestock, prescription drugs, things like that. It does not apply. It does apply for more traditional purchases like clothing, restaurants, toys, that kind of thing. Here's just an example of an illustration of how that translates in real life. So before we go into the survey, which Mr. Whalen will present, that was completed on November 3rd, I believe, I do want to just outline one final kind of stat that is important, that because of our dependence on the card club and because those revenues are substantially higher or something that most cities do not have, our residents really benefit in that. Here are some examples of, for every dollar received, for example, in the city of Artesia, 54 cents on that dollar comes from residents in one form or another, whether it's property tax, sales tax in lieu, a variety of methods, but it comes from residents. And that's an illustration of where other cities compare, and to the left you see Hawaiian Gardens. So 14 cents of every dollar received in the city comes from residents compared to typically, and that's because of the cart club. Essentially, if the revenues are disproportionately received at 70% from the cart clubs, you can see why this graphic matters so much. And again, the sales tax that's being proposed tonight, not all of it's going to come from residents either. So this number should not increase substantially. And frankly, unfortunately, we do not receive that much in sales tax revenue. We don't have, as you know, a large shopping center or those kind of facilities that generate a lot of that sales tax. Again, the restaurants are the number one producer, and even that restaurant, the majority comes from the casino itself. So now I'd ask Mr. Whalen to come up and just provide you the survey results, and then you could ask him questions and concerns before we move on.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Great. So I'll get started. We conducted a survey. Some of these fonts may not translate into the presentation format. They may seem a little small, so let me know if you can't see something. I'd be happy to illustrate it. We completed the survey earlier this month. We researched voters throughout the city. Since it's a topic about a ballot measure, a potential ballot measure, of course, voters are the right people to interview. We interviewed in both Spanish and English languages, of course. Our sample is stratified, which means the proportions of people that we interviewed, male, female, where they live throughout the community, other demographic factors reflect the demographic composition of the city of Hawaiian Gardens itself. And naturally, we used live professional interviewers, and we dialed both landline and mobile phones without putting a cap on mobiles. That's methodology. The end result being we use the most robust, statistically accurate form of methodology to approach this project, and I think we have meaningful results. We start every one of our surveys with a simple question. It's an open-ended question, and we just ask people what the most important issue in their community today is. And then we categorize this. So we get this all in open-ended responses. We don't encumber it with our own list. But this is, when we put this in a category and we quantify it, this is what we get. Far and away, public safety is the most important issue. This is what we call dinner table conversation. It's what people are talking about all the time at 35%. And then a significant drop down to the next largest issue, homelessness, and very, very shortly behind that, statistically they're identical, transportation issues, whether it's traffic, parking, these kinds of things. And then you see a fairly large drop down to this diaspora of other items. The top three items, public safety, homelessness, and transportation, but most significant, public safety. Kind of a gas pedal, brake pedal sort of thing, right track, wrong track. Is the city overall on the right track? A plurality, 42% say the city's on the right track. There's a fairly significant proportion at 39% who are unsure. And 19% say wrong track. So this tends to happen where public safety is a fairly big concern. You get a little bit more uncertainty than you may have in other communities where it's not as prevalent. Then we get into a list of public policy topics, and we ask people to rank them. What are your top three most important public policy topics? We do this list because most people aren't thinking about all the public policy topics that you deal with every day. So we remind them, and then it gives them an opportunity to rank them. Unsurprisingly, We see a reflection in our open-ended questions in this list. So the first issue is protecting the community from crime, gangs, drugs, graffiti, clearly public safety, far and away the top issue at 52%, fixing homelessness 38%, and then this lack of parking. That was that transportation issue that we were talking about earlier at 31%. And then it drops down from there. There's an affordable family housing issue. There's a variety of other items, but those top three items are first and foremost in terms of what the residents, voters want the city to focus on. Do you approve of the job that the elected leaders are doing? We have a plurality at 44% who approve. We follow this up with an intensity. Do you strongly approve, strongly disapprove? We anticipate that to be what we call soft. Most people don't feel very strongly about the work that you do. That's not a bad thing. We see this here. Only 9% strongly approve. Only 7% strongly disapprove. So, and then we have that 40% unsure. People don't really talk about the city elected officials regularly. So we expect to see a significant proportion of unsure. There's nothing unusual about that number. And then putting in contrast what we see earlier, general concern about public safety. We ask people this harder question, it puts a fine point on it. Do you feel safe? Do you consider the city to be a safe or an unsafe place to live? A supermajority, 67%, say it's safe. And then about a little less than a third say it's unsafe. So there's definitely concern there. It hasn't transformed into where there's a majority of people who are what I would consider frightened. There's a difference between concern and fright, and I just want to put that in perspective. That's why we ask different questions in different ways. Are you satisfied with the job the city is doing to provide city services? We have a majority who say yes at 55%, and a little under a third who say they're dissatisfied. And then we start to introduce the question of funds and the money it takes to run a city. We asked, do you think it's important to find additional funding for city services? 82% say that it's important. And in my world, to get a number that large is difficult. And you can perhaps get a good idea of that about thinking about the dinners you're going to have next week and see if you can get 8 out of 10 people around that table to agree about anything. It's hard. So for 82% to agree that it's important, it's a big number. And it's going to put in context that there's going to be a little bit of cognitive dissonance with some subsequent numbers. But I want to remember that. There's definitely a recognition that, that there's a need for additional funding here at the city. Then we introduce the sales tax. We introduce it just describing it, what it is, how much it would cost, what it would be used for. How much revenue it would gain, and then would you vote for it or not vote for it? This is what we call an uninformed ballot test because it's just antiseptic description. When it's described this way, a plurality of voters vote against it at 49% to 40%, and then the small proportion of unsure and refused. Intensity is a little higher than we've seen in other questions we've asked earlier in the survey. 25% say they would definitely vote no versus 17% who say they would definitely vote yes. So a little bit upside down at the beginning here. What we do after this is, because this isn't dinner table conversation and because governance expects an education of the public, we're going to introduce a variety of different items about a potential ballot measure like this, what it would do, and then we see if that influences people in one way or another. We're going to introduce a few of these things a little bit later. First and foremost, we follow up when we ask why would you vote yes or why would you vote no. And the first reason to vote yes is just this kind of visceral, the city needs it. And I guess this is reflected in that 82% number earlier. The need to improve public safety is next. And then those who say no, a concern that taxes are too high at 55%. So there's a perception that taxes are too high within the city. Then we're going to go through a variety of these different topics of education. The first being that if new tax isn't raised, the city is going to lose about one half of city staff and services, a potential ramification of this. City maintenance could suffer. Things like the appearance could deteriorate. Public work staff would be less able to respond to graffiti, weeds, and illegal dumping, things like that. This message, 48% upon hearing it, become more likely to vote in favor of it. We also break this down in these two little donut charts, and I'm just going to describe this for this one slide, then we'll move through it on a more general basis for the other topics of discussion. The top right donut is those who initially voted no. Does that influence people one way or another? And the bottom right donut is those people who are initially unsure. People who are unsure is a very small proportion, about 10%. So the large pie on the left is everybody. The next, The next education item is if new revenue isn't raised, public safety is going to be impacted. And then we described that there in a little bit more detail. Traffic, fighting drugs, graffiti, these things could be impacted. 48% become more likely to vote in favor of the measure if those items were to be impacted negatively. 47% become more likely to vote knowing of the benefits of the city raising taxes independently rather than LA County raising taxes and those tax benefits maybe not coming back to the city immediately or at all. And then 46% become more likely to vote yes, knowing that it would offset some of the losses from the potential impacts to the card club generated by the AG. And finally, 43% become more likely to vote yes, knowing that most sales taxes are paid for by people who visit and do business in the city as opposed to people who live here. And then, I'm sorry, I said finally, but we're almost to the end. And then we have 42% become more likely to know that it allows the city to invest in the future. So projects that would improve the community. 41% become more likely to vote yes, knowing it's going to cost the average resident less than $3 per month. And then 39% become more likely to vote yes, knowing it would only apply to sales of non-grocery goods. Does not apply to services. 37% become more likely. After all that information, we retest again, and we get a slight increase in yes, up to 43%. But what's interesting is you get a significant decrease in no. So once people start to realize that there's certain ramifications, real ramifications, that visceral reflexive no, which we see in a concern about just taxes being too high, a perception that taxes are being too high, that drops down to 41%. What we have here is basically a split ballot. So you have a 50-50% chance, more or less, of this passing, given in a public education effort and people learning what the ramifications may be. We again asked this open-ended question, why would you vote yes, why would you vote no? The first one is why would you vote yes? The largest reason, again, is this visceral look. The city needs it. And again, hearkening back to that 82% of people who recognize that new revenue is needed, new funds are needed, no real surprise. And then we see a few things that kind of come up, keep the city clean, money is going to be used to maintain city services. Why would you vote no? The two top reasons are taxes are already too high, and then there's a concern about would the tax revenue be put to use, as the city says it would. So there's a trust component there that would need to be addressed. Then finally, I believe this is finally, we have two items about where people get their news and information. The top two sources of news and information. This is for those of us who consume news and see it change over time. This is a fun, wonky slide. It's true that the items that generate news, like local TV, newspapers, things like this, are not where people consume their news primarily anymore. Social media really is. Depending on the community, it changes. 52% of folks in this community consume their news, turn to get their news about the city through social media. So it doesn't necessarily mean that Facebook is creating those articles, but if they're disseminated through Facebook, that's where people are reading them, Twitter, Instagram, that sort of thing. And then in terms of direct communication from the city, city newsletters, flyers, and mailers, this is also an effective form of communication. And then for websites, blogs, this sort of thing, the City of Hawaiian Gardens website. That concludes the top-level perspective of the research that we performed on your behalf. Be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Do we have any questions? No.
Now, are these questions leading into the discussion?
So, if I may recommend that the questions be specific to the survey. So if you have questions about the survey or any of the components of the survey.
Well, you put this survey together well.
Thank you.
I see fear tactics in it, though. Especially with our public safety, it could falter. I mean, we're a casino city. We have money stored up. This tax you want to tax our residents has nothing to do with cops not showing up on a call or public safety not ticketing people on red curbs or around corners. So that kind of struck me strange to use that topic on there.
So just for clarification, part of the survey focused on the casino card club issue. So if the state changes the rules, we are going to have negative financial impact.
That's topic number one, though, correct? No. Where
Well, it was applied to the survey also.
yes.
So after education, in other words, the initial, and after that, they were told about the casino issue, and they were told. what
Yeah,
that
but I
could mean.
read
Yeah.
the question, it could alter our public safety.
Well, so it could. If the state attorney general's office changes the rules, we're going to lose revenue, and if we lose revenue, it will alter all those services.
So is this the time we bring this out, or are we going to have a conversation after this survey's completed, after we ask questions? Or do
So
we
you can have
just-
a conversation after, but my point is, if you have questions about the survey, you can ask Mr. Whalen because he did it. So.
Okay, here's a question. How many calls did you make to the residents?
We called everyone
Every single resident?
multiple times.
So everybody in here from Weingarten's got a phone call?
Just because they say they didn't get a phone call doesn't mean
You're
they weren't
lying.
called. No, they're not lying.
Okay.
No,
All
they're
right,
not.
okay.
No, that's
You weren't
unfair.
home or something.
That's unfair. Yes, people are not home often. Oftentimes they don't answer their mobile phone.
Thank you, sir.
These are fair things. I mean, how many missed calls do you have? After this meeting, I'll have about 50. It's a busy time. So everyone is called multiple times, especially in a small community like yours. This is an expensive place to research. There's only 5,500 voters here. So when I call everyone at least 3 times in a regular community. You guys were called much more than that.
Excuse me, we're having a conversation here. We just
I'd
wanna
be
make
happy
sure
to
we're
provide a
respectful.
disposition report. So I do understand that there's a perception sometimes that I didn't get that call, but people misperceive things a lot, especially about the phone.
I have a question. The phone numbers, where did your firm get the phone numbers?
We get them from something called the voter file.
Okay.
So this is the most robust form of data that we can get.
And so,
I-
but you didn't call like all 5,500 voters. You called the 200 that were chosen, correct?
No, we called the 5,500, but we only interviewed 200 because the 5,300 didn't respond. They didn't pick up, or they were busy, or things like that.
Also, I believe for voter files, not everyone includes their cell phone or a home number, correct?
That's true. The cell phones are pretty good on them. People do volunteer their cell phones quite a bit on them. So we have about an 85% match usually. In this particular instance, I think our completes on mobiles were above 60%, around 65%, something like that. I'll double check for you. But we had a significant participation with mobiles. So it's, if you're a voter, the data is pretty doggone good. So.
Thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
No other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So where we're at now is with staff recommendations. Before I kind of list those, I want to point out, I provided the City Council with an article that was in yesterday's LA Times related to the Native American tribes proposing an initiative to legalize sports gaming in California. In addition to the initiative intent to legalize sports gaming, they're looking to change the rules and provide to legalize roulette and craps. And most importantly for our community, it's looking to make certain games played at card clubs illegitimate or illegal. And obviously, management at the casino has expressed their concerns, and I'm communicating that to you. I thought it'd be appropriate to discuss tonight because it's just, unfortunately, in addition to the attacks by the state, now we have this issue related specifically from the tribes. And as you know, Councilmember Trimble and now Vice Mayor Alvarado gets updates, and the tribes are consistently and always trying to change the rules to essentially shut down card clubs. I mean, that's just the way it is, and it's been for some time.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that. I've been to Sacramento, and I got yelled at by our general's assistant. She's saying this. It's not that we're trying to change the rules of the card club. From the beginning, they've been doing illegal games. So what they want is a portion of past games played for the last 20 years of these illegal games. It's not they're changing the rules. It's more serious than that, and that's what they're pressing. That's why they don't even want to make a deal. I mean, it's been going on for 4 darn years. It's just going through the process, and they refuse to bend. So it's not that they want to change the rules. So it's a serious thing.
Yes, sir. The other thing I want to be clear is that if you do not support staff recommendations tonight, it does not mean taxes are going to not go up. And so, obviously, this is just like all the other county tax measures that I showed, Prop A, Prop C, the homeless grant, or the homeless initiative. All of those were initiated by the county, but the taxes come from this community. So, just because you deny or you don't want to move forward, and that's your prerogative, does not mean that those taxes will not go up. We know we understand that the county is going to push an initiative in November for another tax measure. I think some council members they reached out to already related to fire services. And so we already know that there's going to be at least one more. And so if you don't do this, does not mean that if that passes, the taxes will go up in this community. It just won't come to Hawaiian Gardens. It'll go to the county for whatever purpose they're pushing it for. So I want to be clear about that the taxes, if you deny this, the taxes may and may still go up if the other initiatives are approved. It's just tonight what we're asking is, our staff's proposing to authorize the voters to decide. So we're not asking you to approve a tax measure. We're asking you to approve letting the voters decide if they want to do this. And again, a part of this process, the next step would be the public education portion. Educating folks about the very same thing I'm telling you now, which is, I think, whether it's a misconception or just most people would know, including me, that just because the city does not do it, doesn't mean it won't go up. The county can, and it's proven that they've done it pretty regularly to the tune of 2.25% since 1980, I think it was. So I wanted to be clear about that. And then finally, the monies that you spend in your budget, because I saw that in the community survey, obviously go to the community, whether it's the business community, the seniors, the whatever. All the services you provide go to this community. So tonight's initiative is to keep those taxes local into the future. And there is a cap of 10.25. And so tonight, before your staff recommendation is a 0.75% ballot initiative. Let the voters decide if they want to increase it by that much to keep those taxes in this community versus not doing it and making those taxes vulnerable to county measures. With that, staff's recommending you approve resolution number 113-2019, calling an election and declaring a fiscal emergency. Approve resolution number 114-2019, providing primary and rebuttal arguments. And approve resolution number 115-2019, consolidating a special municipal election with the statewide primary. And I can answer any questions.
And Madam Mayor, if I can jump in real quick for the record, resolution number 114-2019 was updated and updated copies on the dais tonight. The dates for the arguments and rebuttal arguments have been updated because City Hall is actually closed on the date of the rebuttal argument, so we had to adjust the dates accordingly to make sure that we were compliant with the elections code.
Do we have any questions or comments?
I do. I just seen on the news that 700,000 people left California last year. And that might sound refreshing to some people, but that's alarming to me because we're the highest tax state in the United States. They were showing gas prices and different taxes. And when this first came out a couple months ago to our attention, to raise taxes and keep it in the city, it was going to be a town hall meeting at the safety center, and majority council had to vote yes on it in order for it to go. But everyone knew I'm not going to raise taxes on our residents. So now we went around the 5 vote, hired this Hawaiian Garden survey, voters survey, to bring, he says 5,000 resident phone calls, but only did 200, which is a very small portion for a city of, 20,000. It just trips me out because this is going on my 5th year as being a council. It's my gun lap, my final year, and I was the mayor one time, and I just wanted to propose national disaster preparedness for the city. Never had one meeting on that, but yet this tax thing, staff's moving like crazy to try to pass it, and I don't think we should raise taxes on our residents, because if the state doesn't let them do it because it's out of our hands, I feel we should not worry about the extra revenue, because we do have a casino, and Keith Sharp and his crew, they're very wise at their business. They're not going to let the Indians just trample on them. It's going to be a war, and I'm hoping for the best of it, but I don't think we should raise taxes, because another thing I noticed this, we can't be the hunter and the prey. Whenever we want to give increase to the union, we do it because we're a casino city. Whenever we want to upgrade offices, buy new furniture, we're a casino city. We have the money. But now we're we're on defense because the Indians want to take the revenue from the casino. No, the casino, because of the casino, where we're getting a $2 million pool, a $5 million uplift on leeware. So what is it? Are we rich or are we poor? Let's not burden the taxpayers, let's not burden our residents with taxes, because we would think we're going to need that money, that $500,000 a year, to maintain the new pool. So I'm voting no on this. I don't want to raise taxes for the community. And I know there's good arguments to do it, but I'm voting no. That's all I have to say, sir.
So, Councilmember Trimble, that's your prerogative.
Yes.
But your comments about staff going around the council, that's inaccurate. We've
Wait,
had several
excuse me?
meetings.
What?
We've had several meetings. The council approved, 3 votes or more approved, moving forward with the survey.
It was supposed to be 5 votes, you told me.
Negative,
it had to be
sir.
majority.
There's a 5 vote for the fiscal emergency. We've had several study sessions and city council meetings related to this issue. So I don't want to let the public assume, or not assume, sorry. I don't want the public think that your comments seem like staff's doing illegitimate or illegal activities. We are not. Okay.
Then where's public safety? I mean, a national disaster, if I was mayor and I was constantly saying
that's not on for tonight. We can certainly discuss it.
Okay, Ernie. Thank you.
Do we have any other comments?
I actually do have a comment. Councilmember Trimble's right. California is one of the highest taxes states in the United States. But Councilmember Trimble was also there at the meeting when LA County came to us to request information if we would support fire.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring that up. I loved it, but they told me I couldn't talk about it because it was a private meeting. We had a private luncheon. You can't bring it up. That's what they told me.
Mr. Roa has the floor.
Can he bring it up? But I couldn't bring it up.
Mr. Roa has the floor, okay?
Bring it out.
Well, I'm not saying who approached this, but you are well aware that if this doesn't come from the city of Hawaiian Gardens, it's going to come from a different county or state or a different agency.
I love what the fire department told us. I loved it, and I can't wait for that to go on the ballot.
Mr. Trimble, Mr. Roa has the floor.
Okay.
Please.
So I understand that we're already taxed, and of course nobody likes taxes, but in our reality, and I can go back into that community town hall meeting where one of our residents brought the question that why were we the only city in the area that was doing it? And we're not the only city in the area. Cerritos has done it. Lakewood has done it. Montebello did it a couple of years ago. So this is a trend because people are the county or the cities are trying to secure the funds for their city and be able to determine where those funds are going to be used. If the county, the state, or somebody else takes those funds, we don't have a choice as to where we allocate that money. So in reference to that meeting, we know that there is public interest out there from other governments to raise taxes. And so this is a way for us to be proactive and secure the funds for the community so that at least, maybe not yourself, maybe not myself, but future local government leaders determine where those funds are going to be used and appropriated for the benefit of the residents. It's the reality. If we don't take advantage of this, somebody else is going to. You can look it up. Lakewood just approved it. and other communities are doing the same. And so the tax doesn't really affect your food, your prescriptions. It affects the consumers and consumer goods that we in reality don't have many of. Our biggest mall is not even in Hawaiian Gardens. The biggest shopping centers are in Cerritos. So it's a small percentage, but at least the city would have a say as to how they get to spend those funds.
I want to echo the comments made by Councilman Roa. In addition, I want to reference the 82% of the residents that were polled that said that they saw the need to have additional funding. As we saw in the presentation, a lot of the funding does come from our casino, and as a council, I think it's important that we look at diversifying our funding. Having more than 65%, almost close to 70% of our revenue come from one source and one source only really is not a responsible way to operate as a city. So I think having this opportunity, which we may not have in the future, because at that point, if we ever do revisit this, it's very possible that the percentage that we can actually increase tax won't be there because other jurisdictions would have already consumed those percentages for sales tax. This is a 3/4 cent tax, and currently Lakewood, Cerritos, Bellflower, Paramount, and Long Beach are all increasing it to maximize to 10.5, which is the maximum currently allowed. A lot of us shop at the Long Beach Town Center, so you'll be paying that tax. A lot of us eat in Cerritos or go to Cerritos or Lakewood to shop at their malls. So that tax will apply to the consumers there as well. And as we know, most of our revenue comes from people consuming at the casino. A lot of people, that's a 24-hour, 665-day business. And a lot of, most 365 days out of the year, it's open. And so what I'm saying is that a lot of the residents don't necessarily consume at the casino. And I forget if we have the percentages of the populations where they come from that actually do gaming here in our casino. So it's really important. Most of them are from Orange County. So it's really important that we really consider this opportunity and take advantage of it. A lot of our neighboring cities are, and whether we vote for it tonight or not, we will still, 99% of the residents will still be paying that because we're surrounded by Cerritos, Lakewood, Bellflower, Paramount, and Long Beach. And a lot of us consume goods and services in those cities. I think it's the wise thing to do, especially because, like we said, most of the people that gamble and that eat and shop at the casino are not residents of Hawaiian Gardens. Most are from Orange County. So I think we should really look at this from responsible. We need to be fiscally responsible as a city, and we really need to look at how this will affect future generations. If something were to happen to the casino and it weren't here maybe in a day or in a year, or something were to happen to it, or if this initiative actually passed, that the casino gaming, the tribes are trying to move forward with, that would be completely detrimental and could end the possibility of Hawaiian Gardens to flourish as a city. So it does concern me, and I think a lot of residents have approached me about diversifying our funding. So I would like us all to consider that, and it looks like Mr. Farfan would like to speak.
I just
some
want
comments.
to clarify one thing. You said 82% or 85%?
82% from the survey.
Yeah,
said
okay, so that's 82% of 200 people. Yes.
Okay. So I'll make a brief comment in regards to the survey, because back when I was in council prior to now, we took a survey, and I could tell you that the survey results are very similar in terms of the amount of people that participated. Very difficult to get people on the phone to say, I want to spend 5-10 minutes with you talking about potential city business, my issues and concerns. So it's not uncommon that you have these low numbers in reference to these surveys. I mean, maybe in the future they need to try different means of maybe standing outside, libraries, grocery stores, something of that nature. But it's very difficult to get people on the phone to invest that time. Everyone's busy. We all get phone calls. And, do we want to talk to potential solicitors? We don't know, so we don't answer, right? Avoid it. I do want to echo the comments of my fellow colleagues here in reference to diversification, because Hawaiian Gardens is extremely limited. So we have one major revenue source. If we look beyond that as a community, what other means do we have of raising funds? We look at, industrial and commercial, very limited. We look at retail, we have two major corridors, right? We are a square mile community, so we do have to look at other revenue sources. We don't have the luxury of, Long Beach, where it has the land, has multiple locations in terms of commercial, Cerritos. So in order to weather the storm, the potential storm that we may be facing in the future, I think this is prudent that the city definitely consider having a sales tax. Before I came on council, I was like, why do we do a sales tax? But the more I look into this, and the more instability that I see, the potential instability with the casino, with the tribes, what they're doing, I want to be able to preserve the city services that we provide our residents. And in order to do so, we have to make some changes. When I saw the number 14%, as the city of Hawaiian Gardens has probably the lowest tax rates on the residents, to me that tells me there's a little wiggle room there to tax the residents, because if we don't do it and we don't have the local control, then obviously the county's going to do it, the state, and they'll continue to do it. That hasn't changed. I mean, if there's one thing that's consistent, it's taxes. That's never going to go away. That's just a reality in terms of living in California. So I'm strongly in favor of moving forward with this, in the sense that it would give us control to do what we want with our tax dollars, to reinvest them as we have as a community. I mean, that's probably been our number one agenda, is how do we reinvest these tax dollars back into providing crucial services to our general population. And this would be one means of continuing to do so, rather than allowing the state or the county to dictate where those dollars go. So I would like to proceed forward, and I hope as a council we could realize that this has to be done as a whole. One individual that decides no, then it doesn't move forward, and it kind of stops there.
And that's correct. And just to clarify, because maybe I was not clear with Councilmember Trimble, the 5-0 is required tonight, not any time before tonight, only tonight. And again, Councilmember Farfan said it, taxing the residents. So and I know that's not what you meant, but staff is not asking you to tax residents. We're asking you to let them decide how this tax is collected, which does not always come just from residents, right? So really it's do you want to allow the residents to make this decision or not? That's essentially the question tonight. They can decide if the survey is correct, or if parts of the survey are correct. They can say, no, I don't want to do this, and that's fine. But at least our obligation is to educate them on, hey, if you don't do this, the county may, and then they could say still no, then that's fine. But we're not, the recommendation tonight is not asking you to approve a tax. It's not going to be approved tonight. It's going to be move forward and asking the residents if this is what they want. So the residents are going to decide, not you, not me, the residents. Okay, well, I guess you're residents, sorry. Yes, sir.
Good job, Mr. Victor Farfan.
Thank you, and thank you for the clarification. That is true. Yeah, we tonight aren't saying we're going to put it out. Basically, we're putting it at liberty for the residents of the community to make that decision upon themselves. So,
and I think that it's Justin. I think it's our due diligence to allow the residents to decide. Again, it's not a secret that state and county are going to take advantage of the situation. So it's really up to the residents whether they want to be the ones to have a say-so in these funds, or if they prefer that the county and the state dictate where that money should go. And just a clear example is those funds that were used at what measure were that, Ernie, for the metro? Measure M. We don't see any of that. The nearest station that's going to be close to us is going to be in Artesia, and so that's still a drive for Hawaiian Gardens residents.
Right.
And other than that, it's being allocated to where there's money, to where there's resources. It's going towards Inglewood and some of the West LA area where there's already a lot of money, where there's a lot of development going on, and eventually, way further down the line, it's going to trickle down to the smaller communities like us. And so, to me, that's really unfair. And at least the residents have the option to determine whether they want local or state control.
And going back to Councilmember Trimmel's point too, this is the highest tax state in the United States. This is the highest tax county in California. We understand that, and I'm not saying it's right, but if we don't do this, somebody else will. And that's the point, and I think that's the education burden that we have to the public. So those are just facts, right? And your decision tonight is not going to change the fact that we're the highest tax county in the state of California. So,
And let me say this. Well, it has nothing to do with this topic, so I just won't say it. But well, I'll say it now that I brought it out. 4 years ago when I ran for election in 2016, I met a man, and he recognized me after the election because my big face was on the card, right? And he's seen it all over the place. And he goes, "Hey, you ran for election?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, I represent an Indian casino, and I always see your face because I always go and have meetings with your casino because we wanted to buy it." And so he told me, if worse comes to worse, it would just change ownership, and But that's what he told me 4 years ago. I still have that because, see, I'm retired from the city. My retirement helps. They help pay for my retirement. If that goes, my retirement's gone. I have to come back and ask you for a job. So
that is correct.
So I'm hoping that the casino
but if that goes, I won't be able to give you a
uses
job.
wisdom and I hope the best for it. But like they brought out today, it'd be wise just to put it in the voters' hands and let them decide if they wanted to be voted. As long as I'm not voting in a tax, I'm voting in it to put it in their hands. Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, I think it's important that we let the community decide, because we are as council always looking to how to give back to a community. Like Mr. Roa came up with the plan about, replacing those window bars for cameras. I think that was an awesome project, and people are taking advantage. So that's what we're looking to do here. But it's important that we protect what we have coming to us. If we don't approve this, or the residents say, "Oh, we don't want to be taxed," or whatever the case may be, I personally don't like taxes. But if it's going to benefit the city as a whole, I'm okay with that. I still, I live in the city, so whatever I buy, I'm going to be taxed. So, I'm part of that. So, but I know if it's going to benefit a community and the money's going to stay here, it only makes sense to approve it because the money's going to stay here. The more money we have, the more things we can do for our residents, like project, like I mentioned about Mr. Roa. If we don't approve it, then the funds are going to go to LA County. And guess what? Ernie already said that we don't get dollar for dollar. So it's better to stay in our savings rather than the county savings. So I think it makes sense to let the community decide and consider that it's important to approve it, because it's only going to go back to our community, to our youth, to our sports, to our seniors. It's going to go back to them. So it only makes sense to keep our funds here. Thank you.
Can I get a motion and a second to approve resolutions number 113? Okay, one at a time. Can I get a motion and a second to approve resolution number 113-2019? One at a time, yeah. Motion for that one only.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 113-2019.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Can I get a motion to approve resolution number 114-
Mayor, if we may, we want to be clear for the record that resolution 114-2019, the two amendments were specific to the date, so that the argument for or against the deadline for that would be December 10th, 2019 at 4 p.m. And the other, and that's in reference to section 1, and then section 2 relating to rebuttal arguments, the date for that would be December 20th, 2019 at 4 p.m. The 10th. Did I say? I'm sorry, the 10th, December 10th. For arguments, which is section 1, and December 20th for Section 2. I apologize for the confusion. 10 and 20.
For clarification, the reso that was put on the dais tonight, it says the 12th, but so where it says the 12th, that should say the 10th in Section 1, and in Section 2, where it says the 20th, it should remain the 20th.
Correct.
So the correction is just to Section 1, where you replace 12 with 10.
Can I get a motion and a second to approve resolution number 114-2019 as amended?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 114-2019 as amended.
Can I get a second?
I second that.
Yeah, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Can I get a motion to approve resolution number 115-2019?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 115-2019 as amended.
I don't think that one has an amendment, no. But we're good. Okay. Can I get a second?
Yes, again, I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Yes. And we'll take a quick 5-minute recess. The meeting will resume at 7:15. The time is now 7:27, and we're resuming from our break. We will now revisit item A1. This is a public hearing for resolution number 111-2019.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a continued public hearing from last week's meeting, November 12th, in which the City Council left the public hearing open so that staff and the waste hauler could just further discuss the issues that were raised that evening. I will not go through in detail the full staff report that I gave last time to save everyone from that. But I will briefly provide an update. So following the meeting last week, we've done two things. We've prepared a second resolution, which is attached as attachment B to your staff report. This is a resolution that in which you would consent to the assignment of the waste hauling agreement, and you would further impose conditions of findings to cure the existing defaults that have been identified and specify a time to cure. The first attachment to the staff report, attachment A, that is a termination resolution. The effect of the adoption of that resolution would be to terminate the agreement with Commercial Waste CWS without assigning that agreement. So the defaults, you would determine that there are defaults and you would terminate the agreement as a result. So you would then not have an existing contract. The discussion item 1, C1 on your agenda, is a contract with CR&R, in which you would then award an interim contract, so you would have interim waste hauling services while City Council determines next steps for permanent waste hauling services. Since the meeting last week, we have discussed with the proposed assignee under the assignment agreement, which is Waste Resources, and discussed their ability to cure the existing defaults. So I'm going to quickly draw your attention in the reso to what Waste Resources would be doing. So if you can flip in your staff report, in your resolution, which is attachment B to your staff report, to section 5, which is, and the council has an updated version on the dais in red line form because there's been a few changes. So starting on page 18, which is section 5, it's conditions on a finding of default and a time for cure. The first...
Just for clarification, you said... For clarification, your comment was they might be doing, or you say they're doing?
Pardon, the cures? Are you talking about to cure
In this
these?
section is going to show what?
How they would cure the existing defaults under the contract.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So the first cure would be to assign the contract from CWS to Waste Resources. That's paragraph 1. The second paragraph then goes through the 9 existing defaults under the contract. Briefly, we have noncompliance under AB 939. This provides that within the next month, Waste Resources would provide a plan for how they would cure AB 939, and that by the end of the first quarter of 2020, they would meet AB 939 compliance requirements. It's effectively the same thing for paragraph B under that section, AB 341 and 1826. They would also provide a plan for cure and then meet compliance requirements by the end of the first quarter of 2020. With respect to their clean air vehicles, they have an existing clean air fleet, and so immediately upon effectiveness of this resolution, they would bring forth their clean air vehicles. They also provide that within 6 months from the effectiveness, they would deliver a new fleet of clean air vehicles. Document requests, they're going to comply with the document request requirements under the agreement, and with respect to existing documents that we need help with CalRecycle, they will help provide those to the extent that they receive them from CWS. Inaccurate reporting, they will accurately report. Performance bond, within 10 days, and actually for clarification, this should say 10 business days because of the Thanksgiving holiday next week. That would really shorten their time period. So we would request that this change to within 10 business days, they deliver the performance bond required by the agreement. Insurance, they have provided certificates of insurance to the city. We're verifying those now, assuming those are compliant. They would be acceptable to the city. The exception is that they currently have a $10 million liability cap on their umbrella policy. We're going to give them also 10 business days to move that to a $20 million cap under the, which is required by the contract. Again, given the timing of Thanksgiving holiday, where they would be very shortchanged. Monetary defaults, there are numerous monetary defaults. The annual payments, there are late payments for second quarter franchise fees. There are, and we can ask what the status of this is this evening, but the last I heard that the franchise fees for the last quarter also hadn't been paid, so they would also be paying those as well. It specifies in detail, again, what those are. So those are how they would cure and the timing. So they would have 3 business days from today to make that payment. So those are how they would cure and the timing for your cure. Section 6 is the consent to assignment. Explains what the assignment is and the conditions that we would impose upon that consenting to that assignment. And that's really the meat of how the assignment works. Attachment A is the termination resolution. So in lieu, if you attachment A to your staff report, that goes through the defaults and then terminates the contract. Oh, and I should clarify, sorry, not to jump all over the place, going back to the item you have on your dais. Exhibit 1 to this resolution is a waiver and release of any claims against the city by Commercial Waste Services. So any threats of litigation would be waived by virtue of them signing this document. This is a condition to the consent that's built into the resolution. And then exhibit or attachment 2 to this is an acceptance of the terms by both the Assinee Waste Resources and CWS as to the cures and the consent tonight, so that everyone is clearly in agreement as to the. I think that you're a Delaware corporation. Yeah, that's accurate. The other, just briefly, other outstanding issue was the discussion of the insurance by CWS last week. They delivered during the public hearing a certificate of insurance. The city attempted, and they were instructed not to conduct services until the city verified that insurance. The insurance certificate did not meet all of the requirements that were set forth in the agreement. However, the city received reports that Commercial Waste Services continued to collect trash. So they were delivered a cease and desist letter on Wednesday and a follow-up email on Saturday, given there were continued reports of collection. With that, if you have any questions, otherwise we would, the applicant and the potential assignee should come up for comment.
Okay, the applicant can come up at this time.
Good evening. I'm Tom Gendel, the Chief Operating Officer and Executive Vice President for Waste Resource Technologies and Waste Resources, Inc. Here to answer any questions or anything at the Honorable Council's whim.
Well, I'm sure you met with our staff.
Yes.
And our attorney, our city manager. And I love what I heard right now that you're going to just resume everything that Commercial Waste left behind. You'd fill it all up. Jeff, who I met, sir, I don't know your last name, but I love the way he reported in closed sessions. He's a matter-of-fact man, you know, cut and dry. And I love what he said about your company when Mr. Roa asked him last week, and he had nothing but compliments, high ratings, your credibility is a good word. So I'm excited to have you here to ask questions and hear what he had to say about your company.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
Our company is built by a group of professionals who've been in the waste industry since 1955. I don't know if a lot of you will remember the company Western Waste Industries. That was our family company, which later merged with USA Waste and became today's Waste Management. So after that, my uncle went ahead and created companies again in Hawaii, on the Hawaiian Islands. And I began a company here in Los Angeles. And at a wedding, we just got together and says, why don't we just do it again and put it together? And that's, in 2002, that's what created Waste Resources. We were fortunate very quickly to get the franchise of Gardena, California, which later followed with an award of the city of Linwood, California. And most recently, almost a year ago, we were awarded the city of Carson, California, which is our largest franchise, some 20,000 residents, 20,000 residential units, and close to 1,500 to 1,800 commercial businesses. So we're very proud of what we were able to achieve so far. And another thing about our company is we're not a company who believes in landfills. We're a zero waste company. We're looking to try and keep everything out of the landfill. So we've spent about 15 years looking at technologies and testing and using technologies for what you're all hearing today, organic wastes, for the wet waste streams. This is what we do. Our facility in unincorporated LA County, which is in between Carson and Compton, is going through a complete redo where we're going to take it from a 500-ton-a-day facility to 2,500 tons per day. Our organics processing technologies, we have small ones, which we would put an example in this city in the casino where they would just give us all the food waste. We could process it right there and pick up whatever's been processed through machines that we have. In our facility, we'll be creating refuse-derived fuel, RDF for the acronym, which we go ahead and put in some type of system that takes out the methane gas from it to create the clean natural gas where you can put it into the trucks and make biochar from it, which, again, we're trying to make valuable commodities from trash and not put it in a landfill. So we think we're about 10 years ahead of our competition. A lot of our competition is dependent on their landfills. They don't want to leave their landfills because it's such a big profit margin for them. Going to a landfill, a person who owns a landfill probably gets 60%, 50-60% profit down to the bottom line, which a lot of our municipalities don't see because you're always looking at how much it costs at a transfer station or a material recovery facility. You don't see that, what goes to a landfill, what the costs are at a landfill. I also need to mention that we do know the landfill business because we were the ones who cited and permitted the El Sobrante landfill, which is in Riverside County, which is one of the largest landfills in the country. And it's right now being enjoyed by Waste Management, which kills me, but it is what it is. So hope I gave you a little bit of a flavor of who we are. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask away.
Well, my big question is this. If council approves your company tonight, are you guys ready to pick up trash tomorrow morning?
Yes, we are. We've been, you can hear the scratchiness of my throat. We've been working 24 hours for the last 3 days trying to put things together like routes and make sure we have the vehicles in line, make sure we have the manpower in line, make sure the routes are in line. We've been working with the current hauler, looking for things such as keys to gates and remote controls, and trying to understand where the problem areas are. We all saw the article in the Los Serranos News today, so I'm really nervous about going out there, seeing what I'm going to find, but I'm pretty sure it's all going to work through. It's just us just preparing and over-preparing, making sure we're ready for tomorrow, and clean the city up and hope to be a great partner with the city of Hawaiian Gardens.
Thank you, sir. I have no more questions.
Okay, we'll allow for public comment during this next period. Council, I wanted to clarify one thing for the record. I wasn't sure if I was clear in my staff report. The two resolutions, that's an either-or proposition tonight. So you will either adopt a resolution for termination and then you would move on to agenda item C1 for the adoption of the contract with CR&R, or you would adopt attachment B, which is the cure and assignment resolution. I wanted to be clear as to that it's an either-or proposition. And with that, if you'd like public comment at this time. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. My name is Dean Ruffridge. I'm the Senior Vice President with CR&R Environmental Services. It's certainly a pleasure to see you all again. A little bit about CR&R. I think most of you know our company. We've been in existence for well over 50 years. The founder of our company is still the CEO and running our company, works 24/7. We're a privately held company, and it's a family-owned company. We have facilities as well as our corporate office within 10 miles of your city hall. We specialize in quality service to all of the communities that we service, and we service some 52 municipalities exclusively in Southern California. Some examples around us right here is Santa Fe Springs, Artesia, Avalon, Bellflower, and portions of Long Beach. We also service a number of communities in Riverside County, San Diego, Imperial County, as well as San Bernardino County and Orange County. CR&R responded to your RFP a year and a half ago. We were interested in your city at that time, and we're very interested in servicing your city now. I'm not here to discuss the merits of this item. It's not for CR&R, or for that matter, anybody else to discuss except for you. But I'd like to let you know that we're willing and able to perform as early as tomorrow morning. We've assembled a total of 5 vehicles that we can have here at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. We worked out a game plan with your staff. We've worked with the interim agreement with your attorney and our attorney. I believe that's 95, if not 100% completed. And if you'd like to know anything about our organics technology or our Green West technology or whatever, we do it all in-house. We don't rely on third parties. So if we guarantee you organics recycling or green waste recycling, commingled recycling, we do it ourselves. We don't have to get a third-party certification or guarantee for you. We'll do it ourselves. So if you have any questions, Madam Mayor or council members, I'd be happy to answer them tonight. Thank you.
Do we have any other public comment?
Y estoy de vuelta con el mismo tema. Y que nos quiten esta pesadilla, por favor, de la basura. Ya estamos hasta el copete de tanto basurar, la basura tira por todos lados, engusanada, sin llantas los tambos, ruedas, sin tapaderas, todos chuecos. Tengo que jalarlo, dijo, ándale, sácala, jalando, porque no ruedan, no tienen llantas. Por favor, si no, ya tengo 30 personas que vamos a ir por todo Hawaiian Gardens a juntar firmas para sacar esta compañía. No la queremos y no la queremos. Para afuera y una compañía que nos cumpla, que cumpla el contrato que haga aquí con el City de Hawaiian Gardens. Gracias, es todo.
Basically, she said that she's very tired of this trash company, that she wants them to be gone, that they continue to have trash everywhere, that the trash is growing maggots, that the bins that they use for the trash are missing wheels, they have no lids. She has to drag it out because they don't have wheels and they don't roll. She's hoping that it will be terminated and be done with this company. Otherwise, she's ready to start collecting signatures. They have about 30 people that are already ready for that. She does not want it. She said that 3 times. She wants a company that will come in and comply with our contract.
Jan LaPointe, 12020 226th Street. I'm speaking on behalf of myself as a resident, and I'm also speaking as president of the Belcher Gardens Condominium Association. We have 7 dumpsters. We've so far missed 2 pickups. I contacted Hike last Friday, and I said, hey, we weren't picked up. And he said he would try to get it Saturday. I understand now you guys had stopped him. Prior to that, of our 7 dumpsters, we had 2 dumpsters that had not been picked up on the previous 3 visits. Our new management company called them and asked them to pick up the trash. And they were told that we were 4 months behind in our payments. So our new company, brand new, November 1st, paperwork still hasn't transferred, cut them a check for over $4,000. And they said they would make a special pickup that Friday. They made their regular pickup and they picked up the trash. I don't think you can trust a company that can't provide insurance and that lies to assign their contract to someone else. And I don't mean any disrespect to the company that they're assigning it to because I don't know them. But I wouldn't trust their judgment. I can't trust their judgment any longer. This is something we need to fix fast because we have missed 2 pickups now, so we do have trash building. My other concern is to me, and maybe the attorney can clarify if I can just ask the question, if someone tells you they'll pick something up for $4,000 and then they don't, is that fraud? And if they tell you they need their money, they need this money to pick it up and they don't pick it up, is that also, would that classify as extortion? I have a problem with what's going on. This company needs to be gone. We do need the trash picked up quickly. I don't know who the right company is. I would hope that you would get a 6-month interim contract with someone to pick up this trash and rebid. Use that time to do a rebidding process and get us a long-term company. Because we don't know whoever comes in, if it's assigned, are they going to be able to raise the prices and to what extent? So this is going to affect all of us, and I appreciate your time. Please, let's fix this.
My name is Ginger Hopkins. I'm actually the vice president of Belshire Gardens. And I just, may I ask a question? How long does it take to verify the insurance on something? And is the insurance already verified with the two prospects? That's my only concern. And I've read a couple of them, reviews on a couple of them. I just want to make sure that safety is a most important issue. You know, and all the pickup, we have, please get this done as soon as possible. We have, you know, potential rats, roaches, the trash is piled high. There's even an embarrassing picture online. So I just wanted to say, please fix this as soon as possible.
Good evening. My name is Alba Bach, and I live in Hawaiian Gardens on Juan Avenue. And I'm here because, as other residents have said, safety is very important. And as of November 1st, there was a lawsuit filed against CR&R regarding the fire in Riverside County. So I hope you guys take that into consideration. Thank you.
Do we have any other comments?
Honorable Council, Mayra Maravilla, City Mayor. My name is Javier Bonales. I'm a business representative and a sanitation industry coordinator, and also vice president for the Teamsters Union, Local 396. Don't get confused, 396. I'm here on behalf of many Teamsters members that live, do business for the city of Hawaiian Gardens. Also, other unions are doing the same here. The common goal to come here before you is to make Hawaiian Garden a proactive and progressive city. And we know now that you can accomplish that because what happened in the past. Throughout my 15 years of experience being a sanitation coordinator, I know a lot about trash. I know a lot about haulers within LA, Orange County, and Riverside, where we have members who will represent the workers who pull out the trash. And by the way, it's the fifth most dangerous job there is in the whole U.S. Before you guys have a good, reliable company to pick up they used to pick up the trash here. Perhaps they paid good, decent wages to their workers. Perhaps they had a good reputation of following all safety guidelines. Because safety is no joke. I remember before you, the theme of getting a new company was to save money. All about saving money. When you talk about providing quality services to the public and to the community, cheap might not be the best answer. Especially if you talk about trash. When you talk about trash pickup, you are talking about safe trucks on the streets. Are they overweight? Are they damaging the streets? How about environment? Smoke. Some trucks are CNG, where it's compressed natural gas, or LNG, liquid natural gas. And then you move to a junkyard trucks that perhaps are not being maintained or provide the safety that they all need out on the streets with a 20-plus tons vehicle going back and forth. They're in compliance with recycling programs, green waste,
The 3
hazardous materials collections.
Sorry, the 3 minutes are up, but is there a rule on time for
In
public comment?
closing, and I will ask the
You can
council.
continue. That's fine.
Thank you. All this will put on check for the benefits of the residents and you, Honorable Council, to find the best qualified company that not only take care of your residents, but also take care of the workers that your residents know, some of them that work for years. And all of a sudden, because the decision that was made, the group of workers were out of work and their families were affected. Are these haulers willing to take over or help the workers in order to complete what the working families ask or request? Very important. Those who make the decision and make a wise decision take time, do the research, find out, double check, engage with the community, and then make the right decision. Honorable Council, I would like to translate this in Spanish if you wish to. Please, just real quick, a brief. En español, estoy aquí como representante de los trabajadores de la Unión de los Teamsters y vengo a pedir al concilio que tome su tiempo. No se comete el error que se cometió muchos años atrás, cuando por alguna razón le dieron el contrato a la compañía donde están ahorita con este problema. Muchos fueron afectados, trabajadores fueron afectados, trabajadores que tenían familias y que de repente otra compañía que obtuvo el contrato los dejó sin trabajos. Ese trabajo de levantar la basura es el trabajo número 5, más peligroso. Y lo que es peor, unas compañías prometen demasiado y no cumplen allá afuera. Troques inseguros, sobrepesados, el medio ambiente que no lo cuidan. Los troques que prometen no son los que están en las calles. Le pedimos al honorable concilio que reconsidere y tome el tiempo necesario para que sus residentes gocen de un lugar seguro y una ciudad limpia, que es lo que merecen. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comments?
My name is Jesus Mendoza. I live at 22022 St. Avenue. I agree with the brother. If you guys didn't know, I've always worked 2 jobs. I'm on a Teamsters, Local 396 also. And I think a year and a half when you guys, well, some of you guys that were in council decided on going on with this company, I think they gave a warning. I think it was the Teamsters right here that were yelling, and it kind of got a little rowdy. And they were saying that this was going to happen. And I think that's where we're at. You know, unfortunately, you know, whatever happened with this company that's serving right now, obviously we knew from the get-go. I remember the first week when they were picking up, it was really bad. The second week, it was really bad. Supposedly it was going to get better. We're like a year and a half, and it's still pretty bad. I think that you guys should consider. Obviously, I think some of you guys are up there, if not all of you. If you're saying that you're pro-union, that's what they asked a year and a half ago. That's why you guys should have went. That's why you guys should look into, because you pay for what you get. Exactly what the brother said. You pay for what you get. So think about that when you guys are deciding. And obviously all the individuals, I mean, if you guys haven't noticed, and I can relate to this because when I was a kid and I grew up here, all my brothers worked for the trash company. It used to be Carlson, now it's CalMet, and they belong to the Teamsters of 396. So I kind of know what it was like growing up as a kid, what they do, the reputation that they have, and what they stand for. And I'm happy to say that I grew up with that, and I was able to see how hard they work and what they do, and that's what you pay for. And if you guys didn't know, ABC School District still uses them. We've always had a different trash company in the city, but ABC uses them. Think about it. Thank you.
Do we have any other comments? Okay, so now the rebuttal is the rebuttal portion.
Oh, this
Go
is
ahead.
okay.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
No, I would just like the council to strongly consider Waste Resources. They're a credible company. They've shown their due diligence on being compliant. I also want to distribute some material to the council. Whoosh. Oh, thank you. Oh, I think there's one more. Sorry. This shows that from the beginning of the award of the contract, that CR&R had allocated tonnage to Hawaiian Gardens, trying to sabotage the relationship from the beginning. They had no tonnage prior to July 1st, and then immediately after the award, you see tonnage being allocated to Hawaiian Gardens when they have no disposal routes in Hawaiian Gardens. Furthermore, there's a spreadsheet I emailed staff that shows additional tonnage from Orange County landfills. So there was a total of 640 tons, which is roughly about 10% of what the city does total allocated to Hawaiian Gardens. It's just additional tonnage that came out of nowhere. Just if you want, because we heard some excuses were that they're pickup trucks or self-haul. Average pickup truck self-haul carries about 500 to 1,000 pounds. So 650 tons would equivalent to a little over 1,200 to 2,400 pickup trucks in a 6-month period. I think that's just an absurd excuse. The other thing is Waste Resources safety record far exceeds CR&R's. Not only were they recently responsible for that fire that killed multiple people and burnt down 70 mobile homes and hundreds of acres, they also were recently awarded the contract in Newport Beach, and they ran over a 7-year-old little boy on a bicycle. In addition to that, you guys, I walk away from here. I don't sue you guys. You guys may win a lawsuit. You guys may not. But at least if you guys award the contract to Waste Resources, we walk away for good. We sign a waiver of release, and we're gone. And we are already coordinated. We have keys, remotes, all access controls. Drivers will coordinate with their drivers on cart placement, bin placement, special needs of the community, and how to access and properly serve you. So tomorrow would be a seamless transition. Any questions?
These are pretty tough accusations against CR&R. Where's this Stalag? What is that? What is that?
Solog, it's a transfer station that is run by CRNR.
And where's it located?
It is, I believe, from what I got from the Orange County, it's located near San Juan Capistrano. So
Do
that's
your
another,
trucks ever unload there?
No, we don't use any CRNR facilities. How they get tonnage from Hawaiian Gardens, it's one of two things. It's either they're attempting to sabotage Hawaiian Gardens diversion rates with the DRS, with Cal Recycle, or they're trying to hide tonnage and play games in other jurisdictions, so they're just using Hawaiian Gardens to funnel tonnage so they could look good in another jurisdiction. Either comply with Cal Recycle or dodge AB 939 revenues.
And is Waymaster, they're aware of it?
I got this directly from the county sanitation. The Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts emailed this to me, and then also I coordinated with the Orange County landfills. It's run by the county of Orange County, and they have a whole spreadsheet, and it's about 1,300 line items, and it shows both in the third and fourth quarter that CRNR was allocating tonnage from Hawaiian Gardens, which makes Hawaiian Gardens look bad for Cal Recycle, because you're only allocated so many pounds per person per day, and if you exceed that, then you are responsible for damages if you exceed the pounds per person per day. And no cease and desist letter was issued to CRNR. They were just allowed to simply go on, do their business. I don't know if it's continued since the fourth quarter. It may have not, but this is for the third and fourth quarter. And the reason why I don't know is once the year end, then all the DRS, all the tonnage becomes public information. So you could go on Cal Recycle website and anyone could look this up. It's public information, which is another absurd thing is why would you lie about a jurisdiction? Yeah. And we also checked the local schools. They currently haul ABC Unified. No disrespect to the gentleman, but CRNR hauls the ABC Unified, but they didn't during the third and fourth quarter. They were just awarded that contract during the summer, so that wouldn't also qualify. Before that, it was Ware Disposal. So it doesn't make sense why you would reward someone for sabotaging your city or potentially causing harm and liquidated damages and making your city go through like a compliance order or serious implications from Cal Recycle.
I have no more questions.
Any further questions? Okay. Thank you.
Could I have our consultant come up and address this information? I think he did address this potentially in our last meeting. But if you need a copy of this document, I'm more than willing to share this with you.
No, that's more information than I've received in a year and a half of asking for his tonnage reports. So I have done audits for a number of cities when we look at all the landfill records. What we were attempting to do here was to verify information that was reported by the existing franchisee. And we were attempting to get records from him on that. At the same time, he made an accusation that there was some illegal disposal going on in Orange County that may be linked to CRNR. I was immediately asked by the city manager and the city attorney to look into that, in which we contacted CRNR and we also contacted Orange County and got the records. The facility Solag, or the facility in Paramount, or the facility in Signal Hill does not mean that that waste was picked up by the hauler that might own it. A number of cities and a number of municipalities, different haulers use numerous facilities. Those are importation accounts. That Solag is an importation account that is held by a different firm. You'll also see Burtek's name on there. They have importation agreements that come through an account number. That is not necessarily a facility that took it there. It's an account holder. And yes, we contacted CR&R, and we asked that they review their records and to explain to us what this tonnage was all about. We also sat down with Cal Recycle and gave them the same exact information, that there might be some questionable amounts there. They looked at the tonnage, they looked at the lack of program implementation, the lack of reporting from the current hauler, and they said, this is not going to get you out of trouble. You need to implement programs and you need to give us verifiable information. We'll take this into account, and so we talked to CR&R again and said, please verify that this is exactly what you say it is, and make certain it doesn't happen again if it's an accident or if it was anything intentional. That is all the information I have for you on that. A matter of fact, that's how it is. You're right.
Yeah. Well, that's way over my head. I mean, all this terminology you're using.
Right.
But
I apologize for that,
it seems like it just was going and all of a sudden it stopped.
Right.
Like, if it's happening, stop it.
And I do see it in a number of cities. I mean, we just found thousands of tons in Bellflower by one hauler picking up school districts. I won't impugn anybody's name here. It was nobody in this room, so it's really not germane to the conversation. But it does happen. And when it does happen, we look into it and we call them out on it. We talk to the county. We talk to Cal Recycle. We attempt not to let it happen again.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Do we have any comments from the council?
Yes. Jeff, can I ask you to come back up, sir? I'll just call you sir, because you're way too knowledgeable for me to call you Jeff in this setting. Sir,
Councilman.
So does your recommendation or your opinion change against Waste Resource? Has you found anything else since last week? Have you finished your audit on them?
No.
Okay.
And my characterization of Waste Resources was, I know the ownership, I know the management, I know their relationships in other cities of which I'm doing an audit. It would be inappropriate for me to discuss any findings until they've had a chance to review that. But I can tell you they have supplied me with all the information that I've requested. Backup documentation, dozens of hours of interviews. So I find that to be people that would stand up and provide the information that I'm requesting. And when there were some hard decisions to make, if they made a mistake, they fessed up. But I would leave it at that. But they are what I have found to be people of integrity. But I would also say that with 99% of the firms that I have worked with, there are few that obfuscate the truth and the law. Very few, and those don't last too long.
Thank you, sir.
As evidenced by today. Yes. Mm-hmm. Any other comments?
So I guess, are we going to open it up for discussion among council? Okay, all right.
I would love to start discussion. I didn't know.
So I do have some questions for Waste Resources. So at the last council meeting, we asked a representative from your company if they had read the contract, right?
Yes.
So at that time, we were being asked by Hike to have us release this contract to your company, and I asked the representative, okay, well, you read the contract, and his answer was no. Right? And then we asked about the dollar amount. We said, have you reviewed, do you understand the fees associated with the contract and what those fees would look like for your company? And the gentleman that was here referenced or mentioned that it was like fees from the 1980s, right? And since then, at that same night, and this has nothing to do with you, but the direction from the city council was that CWS was not to pick up any trash until the city council, through our city manager and our city attorney, were able to confirm that they, in fact, were insured per the contract. And they did not wait. They picked up trash, and the the city manager and city attorney verified that the insurance was not adequate. They were given a cease and desist letter, and they still went out and picked up trash again, and they were given a second cease and desist letter. And so I'm asking, so you have read the contract?
I have read the contract.
And you're okay with the dollar amount associated with what the revenue?
Yes, we're going to take over at the same dollar amount.
Is your organization a union shop?
No, but we do pay prevailing wages. We do have the same benefits. We have had the union talk with our drivers numerous times, but our drivers are comfortable with the situation they're in. This.
So my question is, if your employees wanted to unionize, is that something that you would support?
What I support is what my employees want. I would support what my employees want. With our Western Waste Company, we were a union shop with Local 396, so we're very familiar with everyone at 396 management.
Have you had any issues with Carson?
Issues with Carson?
Mm-hmm.
We have not.
They're your newest client, correct?
Yeah, we've had no issues with Carson.
So you had a seamless transition?
We had a seamless transition, yes.
And I understand from the last week's public hearing that some of the residents here have already paid in advance for some of the services for trash pickup. Have you reviewed the billing structure that CWS has in place, and are you able to continue the billing correctly?
Fortunately, CWS's billing software, is the same billing software we have. So with that happening, we can upload whatever they have in their system into our system. I did listen to the council meeting the following 2 days after, and I did hear residents come up and talk about that they've already prepaid in some cases through December. We're going to honor everything that the residents paid.
How many employees do you have?
Close to 135 employees.
And how many people do you have answering phones for any billing related issues?
We have about 9 employees answering phones, plus operator, plus customer service manager.
So a total of how many?
11. And we also have community liaisons. In fact, one of them is here tonight. Andrea Sotelo, she will be interacting directly with any council member who has any issues or any residents who have any issues. We actually go and visit the residents when there's problems, if they're amenable to us meeting with them.
Okay. Any other questions from my council colleagues?
Ian, you have bulky item pickup?
Yes.
Weekly, monthly, what do you?
It's what the contract will specify. From what I understand right now, it's being picked up on Saturdays. So a resident will call us and we'll go ahead and schedule their bulky item pickup for the Saturday. We would like to later, if we can, make an amendment and change that to where we pick it up on the same day as trash pickup. So we're not out there on Saturdays with the big trucks.
Let me clarify that. So the contract stipulates that there is essentially weekly pickup. What day and how it's picked up, we've come to terms with that. In other words, it's whatever works best for the public. And so if that wanted to change, it doesn't come back to council. It doesn't have to come back to council unless you wanted to. We've changed it in the past to try to find the best way to address that issue. Obviously, we all know it's a big problem in the city. But that's something that we could certainly try or try different methods. And again, the goal is to get that off the streets. So.
Exactly, to get off the streets. Who cares if it's a Monday or a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday? As long as it gets picked up, because we have a problem with it in this city. They drop it off in the street. Yeah.
In the past, when we had Republic Services, all trash in the entire city was picked up on the same day, and that was never an issue with Republic Services.
Mm-hmm.
With CWS, that's been one of the greatest headaches. That everyone's on a different schedule. Every day of the week, it seems there's a trash truck roaming around our city, which to me presents unsafe conditions because we have a lot of children would your company be able to pick up all in one day?
That's what we're going to do tomorrow. We have not picked up your cities. So in the future, I look to have it in 2 days, but I do want to start with the 1 day and see how that works.
Yes, pick it all up tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow it's all hands on deck to clean the city up.
Yeah, and the bin, the dumpsters, right?
And the commercial.
Yes, and the commercial.
Yes,
Very
yes.
important. Yeah.
Yes, I heard tonight that there's some apartment complexes, residential complexes that are in dire need, so we're going to try and contact them and get that done tomorrow.
And I have a question. In multifamily units, there's only one bin where recyclables and trash are commingled. Will your company be providing a separate bin for recyclables?
Yes, for recyclables and soon to come organics, food waste.
Okay, so that's all the questions I have for you, and then I have questions for CR&R.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have some questions. So, yeah. So what do you foresee to be the biggest issue you'll be facing in this transition if we do go forward with your organization?
With our organization?
Yeah. In terms of pickup tomorrow?
Just it's the first time we're running through the routes using a combination of CWS drivers and our drivers. We know the CWS drivers are very familiar with the streets, the safety and unsafe zones. We're just going to take everything very slow. That's our main concern, is the safety out there. We don't know how much trash is on the floor. Example, what I heard, there's trash overflowing everywhere. So I may have to bring in another crew to shovel and sweep areas. You know, when you have trash in an enclosure, when you pull the container out in the commercial areas, you have to actually clean that up so you can get the container back in place. So I don't know what we're facing with that tomorrow, but that's the biggest concern I have, is to make sure we clean everything up tomorrow.
And you mentioned safety as a big concern of yours. What has your history been like when it comes to safety? Have you guys had any major issues when it comes to either employees, any liability issues associated with
Nothing major. Nothing major. No fatalities. No. Ours are finger cuts and abrasions because some drivers don't want to wear the safety gloves or things. We occasionally get a dust speck in the eye. We've had maybe 2 drivers who've claimed back injuries in the last 10 years, and those are the biggest things that we've seen.
So you guys don't have a frequency issue in terms of with your employees?
No.
It's
we don't have employees turning over that often. Our employees are working comfortably with us, and most of them have been with us over 6 years.
Okay. The reason why I asked, I'm in the insurance realm, and so I looked up your experience mod.
Sure.
And it's, I think, above 150. And so that tells me that there's some activity that's going on within the realm of your workers' compensation.
Correct.
And, as the individual indicated earlier, this is a dangerous operation. There's no question. There's heavy lifting, a lot of moving parts in and out of the vehicle. And so, but you're saying that's to the contrary then?
To the contrary, because a lot of that is due to our Hawaii operations. Hawaii operations are different than what we have here in California. And what you're looking at is everything merged together. In Hawaii, it's hard to find good labor who wants to sit there and be trained and trying to retain people there. It's a different culture than it is out here.
Okay.
That's the easiest way I could say it.
No. I'm asking. And it does show that you are combined with that entity in Hawaii.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to further Hawaii is a series of islands, so we're doing 3 of the islands right now. So each island is different. I'm sorry, I just thought I'd throw that in there.
No, well understood. Well understood.
Hawaiian Gardens. Who knows?
We're your 4th island.
Our city manager already tells a lot of jokes, a lot of bad jokes. I'm kidding.
So my next question is, have you ever experienced a transition like this in the sense that you had a contract that you weren't going up an RFP, that you was cut midterm, and you had to jump in and basically take on the liability for the prior provider, and it seems like there's some liability you're going to take on, but not fully. Have you been in a situation before?
With the Waste Resources Company, no. The closest one we've had with the Waste Resources Company was the city of Linwood, where we were only given 3 months to set everything up, get the trucks in, train the drivers. This is 1 week that we're putting together. It's going to be a task, but we're comfortable we can rise to the challenge. So I think we're okay. We'll see tomorrow.
And I'd just like to make a comment for the City Council's benefit and to express my appreciation to both the haulers here tonight. This literally was trying to iron out and logistically planned out over the last 3 days, including our staff, City Attorney's Office, and Lucy and everybody else that got involved. But so just so you know, I mean, your direction last Tuesday was somebody's going to pick up trash in the City of Hawaiian Gardens tomorrow, and that's going to happen. Regardless of which hauler you choose tonight. But I do want to commend the hard work that they've done to get us to this point, along with the legal and logistical issues that we've had to deal with. So,
I have no additional questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I had some questions for CR&R.
Madam Mayor?
Hi. So in reviewing how this would work with CR&R, my understanding is that you have been unable to get any of the billing information or any of the customer information from CWS, correct?
We have not tried.
You have not tried, okay.
Correct.
Okay. Would you be able to still pick up trash even though you do not have that information?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have 3 residential trucks on standby for tomorrow morning to pick up all 3 routes, the green waste, the recyclables, and the trash. And we have commercial trucks. We've suggested 1 or 2, whatever your staff would like. We will stage in 2 parts of your city. We will pick up anything and everything that's full. And according to the contract, according to the city attorney, I believe the records from CWS are required to be turned over to the city. And hopefully they'll be turned over right away within a day or 2. And with those records, we'll go ahead and do the routes on the commercial side that are necessary. But as far as tomorrow and the commercial routes and the commercial bins, they'll all be picked up. Anything that's full, anything that's overfull, we'll have manpower out here taking care of that. As far as the industrial waste, the compactors and the roll-offs at the casino and so forth, we will check those out. We'll see when they were last serviced, and those people will bill directly. But as far as the residential and the commercial, we've worked an agreement out with your staff. You'll have that next on your agenda, and that shows how things will be paid.
If CWS doesn't provide the billing or customer information, which is likely because they couldn't provide us with insurance,
right.
And a lot of other documents, as Jeff has discussed, how would you be able to ensure that billing goes seamless, and how would you be able to ensure that?
Good.
Would that be your responsibility, or would it be the city's responsibility?
I think it's mutual, but we have four sales reps on standby right now to start. Probably not tomorrow, but the next day we'll go door to door to every commercial business to ask them what their service is, what they've signed up for, what days of service they've signed up for, and we'll get written agreements with each and every one of them. That we anticipate taking about 3 or 4 days.
And I understand that the way that you would be charging, because I don't think we actually got like a dollar amount for residential or multifamily use. How is it that the billing, what's the actual cost to the resident?
As we proposed a year and a half ago, those rates are public. They're in the exhibits. The city manager and city attorney has those. They're attached as Exhibit A to your next item on the agenda. And are they more? They are a little bit more, yes. But if you remember, there were 3 bidders a year and a half ago, and we were so close to the other bidder, within $50,000 a year. And whereas the company that you chose was almost half our price. So they've been unsuccessful in taking care of the contract. One of the main reasons, I think, is financial. They haven't had the financial resources to do what they're supposed to do under the contract.
Do we have any other questions for CR&R? Yeah.
I just have one question here. Is your company a union company?
We have both union and non-union, depending on the location. We have a union shop in Stanton, 10 miles away. We have a union shop, fully union shop, in San Juan Capistrano, 150 drivers down there. We have a non-union shop in Garden Grove, and we have a non-union shop in Santa Fe Springs. So, as the previous gentleman said, it's up to our drivers if they want to do union or non-union. Both our union and non-union drivers make exactly the same amount of money and have pretty much exactly the same benefits. In fact, the benefits that our non-union drivers are typically better than the union drivers. Okay, that's probably a statement I shouldn't have said. I apologize. But we do have very good benefits. Our experience modification, Victor, if you looked at that, we're less than 1. 1 is the average of all the cities. We're at, the last time I checked, we were at 0.66. I think that's one of the lowest experience modifications in the industry, period. We've got a very good safety record.
I'm sorry, what's 0.66?
Basically, this is a scorecard for insurance in the realm that, in regards to the amount of premium he pays versus claim activity. At a 0.66, that's basically saying there isn't any frequency, there isn't any major claim activity, so it's a very safe work environment for his employees. So, and I did check that as well, and so that is true. So,
how does a 150? Is that the 0.66 a 150?
So anything above 100 acts against you as an organization. And it basically tells the general public that there's been more claims, either it's their severity or there's a frequency issue with the organization, and there's just more activity in terms of claims activity. So employees are being injured on the job somehow, some way.
And their numbers, CR&R?
0.66. So it's way below 1.
Okay, sorry, I thought maybe it was like 100 or something because
no,
it's so drastic.
Way below. Yeah, it is. It is. So.
What's the average? Do you know?
Trash industry, I don't know, but I mean, you may speak to that.
100 or 1.0 is the average in the industry. And typically the experience modification, I think Jeff is well aware of this, they typically look at this when they analyze responses to RFPs. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, I think you did analyze that a year and a half ago. And of the 3 proposers, we had the lowest experience modification of the 3 proposers. Again, we have about 1,500 employees, mostly all in Southern California. We run over 1,000 trucks every day, and all of that is taken into consideration in the experience modification. We feel we have one of the safest trash companies around, and some false allegations that were thrown out here tonight were false. And it was difficult for me to sit in my seat there and not get up and say something, but it's a shame that somebody would have to come up here and throw allegations at the competing company and not stand up here and apologize to you. That really infuriates me. So I'm passionate about the company I work for. I've been there for 18 years. And prior to that, I worked for Waste Management, a large company, for 20 years. And then I had my own trash company. So I've been around a long time. I've seen a lot. And this is a quality company. I know it's a quality company, and you won't find a better one to give service to your residents and your businesses than CR&R.
I had one thing to say. I seen on the news your truck dumping that caused that fire because your truck caught on fire and he dumped it out.
The truck did not catch on fire, Mr. Councilmember.
Okay, then. What did the news say?
The news says
Did
what
you dump a load?
Yes.
Okay, why? Because it wasn't on fire, or just dumped it?
The
because
truck
it
was not on fire. What was inside the truck was on fire.
Yeah,
And-
what was inside the truck.
Yes.
So you dumped it.
And we were instructed to dump it. We were right next to the fire department. You can look at all the statistics.
Okay.
We did what we
Okay,
were supposed
then-
to do.
All right, now let me ask one more question. 2 years ago, did you run over a 7-year-old boy in Huntington Beach?
No.
No? Oh, did you run over a boy at some beach? One of the beaches?
Jesus, can't believe this. A couple of years ago, I think it was more than 2 years ago, there was a fatality in Newport Beach.
Okay, now
There was
listen,
an 80
doesn't human life
Hold on.
regulate this insurance thing? Or
I think you need to let him
Can I,
explain
if,
himself
if
first.
I can explain what happened in that incident, it's all public record. There was an 82-page CHP report. There was no fault by the company. There was no fault by the city. There was no fault by the truck. There was no fault by the driver. 82 pages. Everybody, no one is at fault except for the child. And if you wanted to read the facts of that and see how that child ran into the front of our truck without stopping, without looking, you're welcome to do it. It's terrible to talk about in a public setting. I don't want to talk about it, but it's all public record. There was no fault on the company or the driver. That driver has never driven again. I had fatalities when I was with Waste Management, numerous fatalities. This is a very dangerous business. And the problem with fatalities is that drivers never are the same. They never drive again. Some of them can't even live their own life because it's a terrible, terrible situation.
Yes, sir. And I'm not trying to belittle the company. I'm just saying I had lunch with you, and I enjoyed your company. I'm just saying what raises rates in insurance?
So that's two different things.
Oh.
You're talking about from a liability perspective, and I was referring to a worker's perspective. So there are different facets within the insurance realm, and the particulars that we were talking about was with workers' compensation and how the employees and their environment is in reference to claim activities. So, because earlier on we had a union rep that said this is a very dangerous field, and it is. And so,
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I have a few questions. I apologize. I didn't get to. Is that fine? Yeah. Okay. So just for clarification, you mentioned earlier, and when it comes to the whole billing aspect, you're going to go directly to the business owners to see
If necessary, yes.
Okay, if necessary. And what kind of solution do you have in reference to the residents?
We'll just pick up every house tomorrow.
Okay.
We don't need route maps. We'll just pick every resident tomorrow.
Okay.
And we have house counts that's been supplied to us. We recently did a transition similar to this, not totally like it, in Huntington Park, where we took over from a previous company that was on the verge of default, but we ended up purchasing that company, all of its assets and so forth. And Huntington Park worked with us very closely. We put a customer service rep in City Hall to take phone calls, to take questions, to answer questions for any resident that came in. And there's a lot of residents that came into City Hall there, and we thought we'd do it for 2, 3, or 4 weeks. We've had that customer service rep there since March, and the city loves it, and the people like being able to come in and ask questions. That person promotes recycling, talks about billing. She can look up the billing on that particular residence because she has her own computer screen right there. And we've offered that also to your staff to do that for a couple weeks or a couple months, whatever it takes, through the transition.
Okay, so that's something that you would potentially offer. Because my concern is, as a resident and as a council member, is there's going to be gaps in the billing system.
Yes.
Okay. Individuals have paid their bills. Some haven't paid to date as of yet. There's going to be a lot of questions, a lot of concerns. We're not experts here, nor do we have the staff, the resources in order to accomplish that. And so, so you're saying that process worked well in the other community then?
Yeah, it worked well. You've got, and the city manager and city attorney can talk about the performance bond. You've got, I believe, $1 million performance bond that you can draw on. If people have overpaid, if the current company does not refund them as they should, as a respectable company would, that performance bond can be drawn on. You have that access, that availability. And you can use that performance bond to pay CR&R until the commercial building is done. It's very easy to do.
I would rather go with the first suggestion than have to
You're right,
performance
I would
gone. There's no guarantee on that. I mean, we could potentially say, yeah, we could go in that route, but we could potentially be denied and say, you know, that's not a covered cause of loss. So there's a lot unknown in that regard. So. And then when it comes to the trash pickup, you'll be able to everything tomorrow. The entire community, you'll be able to pick it up.
Yes, we have 5 trucks on standby to come in here tomorrow morning.
Okay. That's good.
Do we have any other questions?
I just have one question. So if you were awarded the contract today, you are aware that there is a potential for litigation. So is your company willing to accept the responsibility along with the city, because somehow your company is going to get dragged into this mix?
We've supplied that information to your city attorney. We'll let her discuss that.
So is that a yes? Is that a no?
If I'm trying to find the provision, there is an indemnification that's been added into the interim waste hauling agreement, in which the city would indemnify the waste hauler in certain events. So if they were dragged into the litigation, for example, the indemnification clause may come into play, and we may have an obligation to indemnify CR&R in that event. I'm trying to find the relevant provision. It is a pretty broad indemnification provision. It applies to all events arising or resulting from or in any way connected with or related to the performance or award of the interim agreement. Which means...
Have to protect them, right?
Which
Correct.
means that they could make a claim on the indemnity provision.
Do we have any other questions?
Can we explain that in like layman's terms?
Oh, yeah, sure.
exactly.
So that the general
Yes.
public understands.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I understand I'm insurance.
I'm a layman.
I think Ernie needs it.
Ernie,
so
explain it. What she just say?
you want me to
So in the event that there's a lawsuit filed by CWS against the city of Hawaiian Gardens and CR&R for the performance of that service, the city essentially says to CR&R, we will fight the battle, not you.
we defend the lawsuit on their behalf.
So we'll use our money to defend this
hold
report
them harmless for the
against their company. That's
No,
what
no,
you're
no,
saying.
no. This is to defend CWS's claim against the city. Now, they would be dragged into it as provider of the new service, but what they're seeking is indemnification. Basically, you know, to be fair, they're going to say, we have nothing to do with this, so why should we drug in, that kind of thing, right? But ultimately, from our perspective, you know, in our business, it's always about risk transfer, and so this is a pretty broad generic indemnification that says we will protect and defend this lawsuit without basically your participation. So.
Which, no offense to your company, but it just seems like it's a little unfair to be willing to take on the contract, but not any of the risk associated with that contract.
The risk wasn't created by us, Mr. Raha. The risk was created 2 years ago with this council.
Well, you make a good council person. You'd fit right up here with council.
Thank you very much.
Pointing your finger. Well, I mean, sheesh.
Thank you, Hank.
Let me tell you what your representative told me 4 years ago, sir.
Okay.
Although I already told you out there, but I'll let the public know that when I first became council, he used to be real tight with Mr. Rodriguez, who was then mayor, and he used to, lavish him. And then when I won council, he said, let's go meet CR&R. You'll like them, trash company. I said, okay. He says, okay, they're in Stanton. Be at my house at 10 o'clock in the morning. Lunch was at 12, so I go to his house at 10, and he sits me down and he says, listen, CRNR has a lot of money. We could pave your way for your next election, or anyone you want to run will support them also. Oh, I'm a pastor of a church, all right? I'm not going to sit here and lie to the community and in front of God. So then he tells me this, that money could either pave your way or recall you. He says.
So
I'm just saying the
Mr.
character
Trimble?
of your company, and then you saying he started it.
Mr.
I mean,
Trimble,
come on.
Mr.
I know
Trimble.
you say that he is
Mr. Trimble. So what we're discussing today is we're
it's
discussing,
the character of this company.
Mr. Trimble, please. What we're discussing tonight is what's on the agenda. Okay, what you're discussing,
Two companies.
Okay, but do you have a question? We're not going to do this back and forth. Okay? So if you have a question, you can ask a question. Otherwise, personal attacks are no.
I have no question for this gentleman.
Okay. Do you have any comments? Yes, go ahead.
Mayor, if I could make a couple points of clarification. I wanted to note in the termination resolution that there is that was effectively provided at the last meeting. There's an additional section 6, which relates to cooperation of CWS following termination. In the contract itself, there is sections 9.7 to 9.10 basically require CWS to cooperate with the city in the event of termination. That would include leasing the bins that currently exist, that CWS currently has out. We would be leasing them and then subleasing them to CRNR for the immediate future in order to allow for trash pickup tomorrow. The city needs to engage that lease so that we can allow trash to be picked up, since CWS or an assignee of CWS is not going to be the waste hauler if there is a termination. There's also a requirement that they cooperate, and so including by the providing operating records needed to service all properties. So we also require in this resolution that they cooperate with the city and provide those records. You were talking earlier about billing records and everything. By virtue of this resolution, we've asked for those things. We've asked for them within 3 business days. And we basically require that anything else we need to help with, in the event of a transition and the termination to CRNR, that CWS cooperates. However, I can't obviously guarantee the cooperation. I should also note that we declare the performance bond to be forfeited, or parts of the performance bond to be forfeited and used for the city in the event that that there's a termination, so that there's billing issues. We can help pay for that. However, again, as Councilmember Farfan pointed out, that may not be a silver bullet, because it's effectively an insurance provider. They might fight with us on coverage. I would also wanted to just note the way that the billing is set up right now is that the CRNR billing they're going to bill the city. It's going to pass through the city to the residents in the immediate future, because of sort of the moving pieces associated with terminating the contract and hiring a brand new hauler under a new contract. There's been a considerable amount of fluidity with this process, and so to sort of ensure that trash would be picked up, that was the solution that we reached. But that is obviously that has its own pitfalls. So I just there were a few things that we hadn't discussed. I wanted to point that out for the record. And I don't know if you have any comments on those. I think those are accurate to what we discussed. And one more point. On the dais tonight, Waste Resources had left you a statement letter. It includes their response effectively. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to look at this, but they provide a response to the various defaults and how they intend to perform. They appeared to me to be generally consistent with what we went over earlier in the resolution in terms of curing those defaults. And then there's a couple of letters of recommendation at the end of this packet, just for the record.
Do we have any other questions for CR&R? We have no other questions. Thank you. So can we continue deliberation? Do we have to close the public hearing? Do we have any other questions for anybody else before continue? So that not staff. Yeah. Okay. So then I will hereby close the public hearing, and then we will continue deliberation. Okay. So I'll just start off by saying that this has been a very difficult process. Last week was not easy. This week it's not getting any easier for me, and I'm sure it's very difficult for my colleagues as well. As all of you remember or may have watched on TV or online or here at the council meetings, it was a very difficult process to go through the RFP. Jeff, through Muni Environmental, did an excellent job in providing us a report as to the pros and the cons, basically, of going with either hauler. As CR&R mentioned, between CR&R and Republic Services, which was our previous provider, they were very close. They were neck to neck. And not only in terms of pricing, but also in terms of their scores and everything else that they provided in response to the RFP. CWS, on the other hand, was about half the price of everyone else. They had a lot of issues, right, in the RFP process. A lot of those issues were addressed by myself and, at the time, Council Member or Mayor Rodriguez, who's here in the audience. Him and I were the only ones that opposed this contract with CWS because it became clear to us, based on the very simple report issued by Muni Environmental, that they were inadequate and unable to provide the service of 9/10 of a square mile. Since then, they have acquired a contract with Maywood. Similarly, their current council is dealing with a very similar situation as ARC City Council in figuring out what their next steps are, because they owe them exponential amount of fees that includes franchise fees. And I don't know if we mentioned how much money they owe us currently.
They currently owe, I think the outstanding amount is $46,000, give or take, although I don't know if we've confirmed, have the franchise fees for the last quarter been paid? The city hadn't received it. I understand that CWS had suggested that they had been paid, but the city does not have receipt of those. So that would that number would have to increase to account for the Q3 franchise fees.
Yes. So that process was very difficult, and I know a lot of members of the community came out, and they were very adamant about saying, we get what we pay for, and we want this process to be seamless. We want to go with a hauler that can provide great service, even if we have to pay a little bit more. That was a consensus of everyone here that attended those meetings at that time. Since we've got, we had a really horrible transition. We had a lot of sanitation issues. None like how Maywood, they had it way worse than we did, and they continue to have a very difficult time with this company. And I just want to mention some things that were mentioned by CWS. They were saying, why would we reward a company for doing basically bad things related to the CR&R tonnage that they were referring to? That's actually my question, to CWS. Why are we rewarding their company? But in looking at both options are not ideal, right? What we're basically being told is, if we don't go with CWS's demand to transfer their contract, and if we decide to go with CR&R, which has a 0.66 something related to insurance, which is a good score apparently, and their union, and they have a local they're in Stanton. If we decide to go with them, we're basically going to be on the hook for liability related to being sued by CWS, which they have claimed that they will do. Correct? Yes. We will be on the hook for basically billing. The city staff will be on the hook for assisting with the billing transition and helping them. Basically, we would be collecting the billing, and then we would be passing that over to CR&R, which is a nightmare. I don't even think that's feasible. I don't even think that's possible. We don't have the manpower for that. We don't have the expertise for that. We're not equipped as a city to handle that. We were told that, CWS is supposed to provide billing and customer information. CWS couldn't even provide us with insurance last week. And here they come demanding and basically threatening us, extorting the city of Hawaiian Gardens, the way they have with the city of Maywood. It's unacceptable. I think that as a city council, we even allowed this to happen. I am disappointed in my colleague Trimble. I'm disappointed in a teacher, Mariana Rios, and in Barry Bruce. They should be ashamed of themselves for allowing this company to come into our city. And as all of you guys have seen or have spoken to me since the last council meeting, this has probably been one of the most difficult items for me, because I want to do what's right for Hawaiian Gardens, but I also don't want to reward bad behavior. I think by going with this company, Waste Resources Technology, we're essentially saying, good job, CWS. Thank you for being a horrible partner with the city of Hawaiian Gardens. Thank you for owing us money. Thank you for not providing insurance. Thank you for canceling your insurance for several months. And basically for taking our city for granted, and also the city of Maywood. But again, if we don't go with that transition process, then we're basically inviting an even more horrible transition than what we had between Republic and CWS. So I have to say that CWS got exactly what they wanted, right? At least in my books. They're putting us between a rock and a hard place. There's really, we're not, I don't see the best way out. And I know that if we go with CR&R, they won't cooperate whatsoever, because they haven't been cooperative with the city of Hawaiian Gardens up until now. And our residents deserve a smoother transition, and our residents deserve, for us to look out for their best interests, regardless of how upset it makes me to know that this company has taken full advantage of our city. So at least for me, I'd like to hear the rest of the comments of my colleagues. But I do want to, just for the record, say that I'm ashamed by the decision that the previous city council made. That's been one of the worst decisions that I think the city council has made since I've been on council since 2015. And as a lifelong resident living here since I was born, I can say that our city's moving forward, and we'll make sure that something like this doesn't happen again, hopefully with the engagement of the city of Hawaiian Gardens and residents alike.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to say something that I'm ashamed of your actions too. From the beginning, you were after that company. You wouldn't even give them a break. And I'm telling you one thing right now. They're talking about litigation. Whatever this paper means about tonnage and way out there, and people from Hawaiian Gardens drove their trucks to San Diego to dump. Here we can get relatives and family to come up and speak how good it is, but in court, it's a whole different story. What's written is written. A judge, fair-minded, looks at it, and then we'll take it from there. But I just want to get rid of this. Maywood, the mayor you brought last week, and he waved his hand. See, the company that was in Maywood abandoned them. So they were looking for a company to come and clean the city up. Commercial went to clean their city up and cleaned it up and cleaned it up, but then took from our little city, spread too thin, so his good intention hurt him because he was trying to help too many people at one time. And I was kind of upset when that mayor was saying, yeah, they're screwed up. Well, they saved you. They saved your city from rat infestation because they did pick your trash up. So let me see. CR&R, yeah, they're union, but they're also non-union. They got 2 union shops, 2 non-union shops. This man said it's up to the drivers. So did CR&R say it's up to the drivers. So if you want a union shop and their drivers want it, then we can do it. But we can't force them to go to do something they don't want to do, but they're willing to work with us as much as they can. Sir, before I get to you, let me ask this question. Ernie, what's their proposal? What do they want to charge us per household? What does CR&R want to charge us?
So the items before you tonight is an interim agreement that we base on tonnage. We cannot. We can't say how much they want to charge us. He's going to charge us the same amount, 12 something. He said it. So let me clarify, because that was a discussion we had, but the attorney received. She's been working on this item all weekend. So they're going to charge us the rates that were in the proposal.
What was the rate? $22? $20 and some change. Now my question to you. This company here that has...
You can't ask questions
okay.
anymore. You had your opportunity.
Sir, thank you. Okay.
I do just have a comment, a quick comment. It's a real shame that through seeing all the defaults of this company, Mr. Trumbull, all their
defaults with waste resource?
No. Through seeing all the defaults by CWS, the reason why we're here, through seeing all of the complaints, the logs, that you still continue to...
Wheel fell off? Have you guys' wheel fell off?
Yes.
I know yours did, probably 5 times. But have your guys's, have you guys had a wheel fall off? I've never had a wheel fall off. Look at your greatest supporters have wheels. All of your supporters. Anna, yeah, your wheels fell off. And it trips me out because they say they're all drama.
Can you let Myra finish?
And the garbage went all over.
Can you let Myra finish talking?
So,
you're not the only one here.
Go ahead. I'm just saying.
Yes.
I never had a wheel fall off, but your supporters have wheels fall off. That's what I'm saying. If we want to go to court, let's see what happens in court.
I just want to make a comment, okay?
Yes.
And I don't think it's funny. I really don't.
I just think
I don't.
When I see those hands go up, it's your people.
My people?
It's your people. Your supporters.
Enough.
Employees.
Enough.
Okay.
Enough, okay?
Yes.
It's a shame that you continue to defend the very company that's put us in this predicament. That after last week's direction that the city council gave, that they were not to pick up trash without insurance. If they would have hit somebody, if they would have trampled over somebody, if they would have created a car accident, we would have been on the hook 100%. It is a shame that you continue to defend this company and not the residents of Hawaiian Gardens.
1, 2, 3, 4. 5 clappers. Let me tell you this. I'm happy they picked the trash up in Hawaiian Gardens.
I can see that.
Now, I didn't know because, see, I don't get reports that the insurance didn't go through. I didn't get reports. I was just happy to see it being picked up because I knew from that meeting that we're going to have a meeting on Tuesday and Wednesday, someone's going to pick it up. So we didn't skip a beat. I'm thankful for that.
Do we have any other comments from the council?
I actually do have some comments. First of all, I appreciate both companies for stepping up and trying to help us resolve the situation. And I'd like to echo some of the things that our mayor said. It is unfortunate that we are in this predicament, especially with such a short notice. This is something that we've been dealing for the past year, at least on my behalf for the last year. And it's unfortunate that our residents have to go through this. It's not something that happens very often. A lot of the waste management companies, they take pride in the kind of service they provide, and it's a big contract, and they try to retain those contracts. And I also, like I said, appreciate the fact that 2 companies came in such a short notice and are trying to their best to provide the service that the city is requesting. And with that said, I do myself find it a little ironic too that we're here being asked or to in a way reward a company that hasn't done their due diligence to provide the best service for the community, which is really unfortunate. I think that if I was in this situation, I wouldn't waste my time trying to sabotage another company. I'd really make an effort to apologize and save the little bit of my contract that is left. And so that I do take a little offense to that, because ultimately the people that are being affected are residents. But with that said, I mean, my perception is we have no other choice than to award the contract, and subdue to their request. They haven't been very cooperative with the city. There's no guarantee that they're going to hand over the billing information. The city of Hawaiian Gardens doesn't have any public utilities where we could get the information for billing. In addition to that, if the city is responsible for about a quarter of the billing cycle, I think we're looking at about $150,000 to maybe $200,000 that the city would have to originally put up front. Not only that, if we take it to RFP, the RFP process in the past years was over $100K. So now we're averaging $300,000, and we could potentially go to litigation. And I know, I'm confident in our attorney that she's done her best job to provide a case. But when you go out to litigation, there's no guarantee that you're going to win, and that's the reality. And so, can the city of Hawaiian Gardens really afford to put all this money in advance and then hope that eventually we can recover that back? Just this year alone, we had to make cuts, and they're small cuts, or we attempted to make small cuts, and we're talking $10,000, $15,000 on some of our services. Now here we're faced with the situation that we might have to put forward $300,000 for this. And so it hurts me, again, like our mayor said, it hurts me to have to support this, but I think it's the logical thing to do. I think that the majority of our residents have gotten their trash picked up, and some of them, the ones that are not aware of what's going on, it's not fair to them that they have to go through this process where now we have to find a new company that is providing their trash, collecting their trash, that they're going to get new trash cans, that their billing cycle is all messed up. Unfortunately, to me, that the easiest transition is to allow commercial to hand over their contract, which we are aware that they cannot fulfill. And so I asked the public to be reasonable with us, and it's not an easy decision, but I think that that's the logical thing to do, and that's what the community deserves.
Okay, go
ahead. What I want to say is that it really, again, I guess we already said it in last week, but it's very unfortunate that we have to be in this situation. But at the same time, it's very unfortunate that we have CWS trying to discredit CRNR with facts that are not even true, and try to discredit a company where can even look at themselves. How can you just try to discredit a company when you can't even perform with the bare basics of running a business? So that try to make a company look bad like that is really makes CWS really bad, and that goes to shows the company as a whole. The company, who manage the company, and the individuals who run the company. It's really unfortunate, again, that we had to make tough decisions because it's just lack of integrity, lack of performance, lack of everything that, And at the end of the day, what our main concern is the residents. We have to see what's best for our residents in a way that there's no impact or limited the impact to our residents. And that put us in a very challenging situation because it's just tough. And again, it's very unfortunate because someone liked to perform, failed to perform the way they're supposed to, and now we have to make some tough decisions. And again, the main thing for us is to do what's best for our residents. So that's all I want to share.
I feel like I'm just going to repeat the will here. It's a very unfortunate situation that the residents of our community have to endure this, even the business owners themselves. And to basically put city council in a situation where they have to find a solution, which I don't think we're going to be able to find a solution in a matter of days. I mean, to me, it's like we're just stopping the bleeding for now. Because if we had more time, if maybe we were faced with a different situation where we had the ability to go RFP, I think we would come up with a viable solution that would be beneficial for everyone across the board. So all I got to say is this is a very difficult situation. At the end of the day, I think my colleagues here want to do their best in terms of providing a seamless transition for the residents of our community and not disrupt them any further than what they have experienced to date. So.
Yeah, but we're really responsible for this. It's actually the council that was in the past who elected them, who chose this company. Those are the people that are really, really responsible for this mess that we're facing. And somehow they don't take responsibility for that.
I'm one of them council. Let me comment. I'm one of them council. And you know what? We cut the rate from 21 down to $12 and a penny or a nickel. And we've had it for 2 years. Like I'm saying, they went to help another city and they spread themselves out too thin. But we did it because we had a heart for the city, trying to save the city money. You know, you guys want to get this family company and kick them while they're down. I mean, they give it their best effort. I mean, you know, but now they have a cure with a company that's really buxed out and can handle this until the contract, they get a percentage contract raise, I think every year in the contract. So they're willing to suck this 12-something up until their contract raise. I mean, and it'll be a seamless transition with a worthy company by Myra's professional. His comments on it. So
he's not my professional.
Well, he's the city's.
Okay.
Yes, the city's. And
so if we can move forward.
My hat's off to the gentleman because he really searched things out. That's why I think this company is fantastic.
Can I get a motion in a second, and then Megan will explain further to adopt resolution number 111-2019.
And what's that pertaining to? Any clarification?
If I may, Madam Mayor, I'm going to read the title into the record just for clarity. This is the resolution of the City Council of the City of Hawaiian Gardens consenting to the assignment of the exclusive solid waste services franchise agreement between the City of Hawaiian Gardens and Commercial Waste Services to Waste Resources, Inc., and further imposing conditions on findings of default under said agreement and providing additional time to cure the outstanding defaults thereunder. So this is, for clarity, this is the resolution that would allow the existing contract to continue, assign that contract to Waste Resources, and set forth the cures and time period for those cures.
I'd like to make the motion on that.
I think the mayor just made the motion.
Okay,
the second is open.
I second it.
And Madam Mayor, if I may, for clarification, before we move forward, I just want to be clear with everyone what's happening. So by virtue of adopting this resolution, you're agreeing that the defaults, you're declaring the defaults as we've discussed, but you're agreeing that you will assign this contract to Waste Resources and that Waste Resources from here on out is responsible for the performance of this contract. In order for that to happen, a few things have to happen with CWS and Waste Resources. We need them to deliver the waiver and consent, the waiver from CWS at the back of this resolution. And we need them to deliver the acceptance of the terms of the resolution and consent. If they're not agreeing to this contract, we need to know that. So I think if I could just get a yes that you guys are going to sign those things, and then we'll have those delivered immediately. We will also ask to see a copy of their signed assignment, which is effective as tomorrow. They've delivered their certificate of insurance. We've generally verified that it meets the requirements of the contract. We've sent it to our risk manager to get confirmation. And that one, for clarification, that the adoption of this resolution, and I'm going to ask you guys to agree to this as part of your motions, that it is as amended as delivered on the dais today, with the additional, we talked about adding the terms business days in front of a couple of those terms because of the Thanksgiving holiday. So I actually need clarification that the motion is to adopt that resolution as amended.
Mm-hmm. So I'll amend my motion to adopt Resolution 111-2019 as presented to us on the dais, with changes to add business days in front of the areas that the city attorney has explained.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Is Waste Resources aware of the changes?
Yes, they're both their attorney and the Waste Resources have seen the changes.
Thank you. I second it.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed?
I'm going to abstain. So.
Okay.
Does it need to be a 5-0?
No.
No.
It does not need to be a 5-0. So the motion would carry 4-0-1.
Yes. And for the record, that was not pleasant whatsoever. So I do appreciate the abstention. So we'll go ahead and take a quick 5-minute recess. Now 9:37, and we're resuming the continuation of the meeting. So now we're on item. Sure.
Madam Mayor, if I may, C1 was listed as the interim waste hauling contract for CR&R. Given the council's vote on the public hearing item tonight and the assignment of that contract, that item is now moot. So we'll skip over it.
So next is item C5, resolution number 117-2019, a request from the Community Development Director to conduct a traffic study for the installation of speed humps or other traffic calming measures on Claretta Avenue and 213th Street in the vicinity of Melbourne Elementary School, and amending the budget for the various residential street improvement projects for fiscal year 2018-2019.
Madam Mayor, before we begin, both Councilmember Trimble and Councilmember Farfan are conflicted, so we'd ask that, thank you. Because of residents, they're within the 500 feet of the project area, or the proposed project area. So Mr. Colombo will present a brief staff report, but essentially Melbourne is the only school in the city that does not have speed bumps in the surrounding area. And so this is essentially asking the City Council to approve study to evaluate whether they are warranted, and then at that point you'll be deciding if they are appropriate and what that, whether to approve that process or not. So tonight before you is approval for the fees, right, for the study. Or
the budget amendment. A budget amendment, correct.
So you want a staff report?
So we've been asked, Community Development Department has been asked to agendize this to look at the potential speeding that may be occurring on Claretta Avenue and 213th Street. In order to put any type of speed humps or other traffic calming devices, it would be prudent for us to conduct a traffic survey and have that analyzed by a traffic engineer, which is the protocol. Once we do that, then we can come back before the City Council and then report back what the results are. If the City Council then wishes to install some type of traffic control device or calming devices or measures, then basically we would treat it as a change order to a current contract that we just awarded in the community for the various residential street rehabilitation project 2017-18. I believe, is it 17-18 or 18-19 that we have currently awarded. So what we're asking basically is direction to conduct the study, and then if it warrants to install any traffic controlling measures, we would be amending the budget as well to install those measures as well. In any event, we would have to come back before the City Council for any further direction, so it wouldn't be done automatically. So at this point, by approving resolution number 117-2019, you would authorize a study and amend the budget at the same time. The reasoning for the amendment is that, again, we would treat this as a change order to a current contract, as 213th Street is slated for a street rehabilitation, and we're in the general vicinity, that we would also take care of Claretta Avenue as well. More than likely, Claretta could potentially warrant some type of traffic calming measures. We're not sure about 213th Street. If it's not warranted, then we may have to do some type of petition, but in any event, we'd have to come before the city council. And that pretty much concludes the staff report.
And again, the urgency is, if we do it this way, it'll cost less as a change order versus waiting to the next cycle to identify it as a project. And since we're already working on that street, it makes it a lot feasible.
That was basically going to be my question. So it would just be a change order, which means when they repave the street, they could potentially add the speed bumps.
Right. So we've already let the contract out. It's been awarded. They're under construction right now. They have started with various concrete work, sidewalk, curb gutter type stuff, and then they will come back, I believe, after the holidays and start the grinding process of the various streets. There's quite a bit of streets that we have awarded for pavement.
So Joe told them to put that particular area on the back end of the process. So
we told them, correct. So we don't have to go up there twice.
Right, but do we have a time frame? Because the kids are going to be out for Thanksgiving break, and so that potentially affects the traffic.
Right now, we would just be doing the traffic study right now. So if you do approve Resolution 117-2019, all we would be doing right now is conducting a study. There would be no improvements done until next year.
Right. No, but what I'm saying is, what's the time frame on the study? Because since there's no school, it affects the traffic
study
flow.
Right. Next week it'll be. We already have it programmed and ready to go if you approve this tonight. So we obviously want to do the study while school is still in session.
And if you don't know, we are randomly having public safety officers go to the different schools because we're still having a lot of issues with, parents essentially not obeying street laws and that kind of thing. So this certainly is timely as far as that process because we're having a lot of issues.
Any other questions or comments?
So, Ernie, what kind of issues they're having again?
Just traffic, double parking, people taking up multiple spaces to drop off and pick up children. So what we've done is dispatched public safety officers in the morning to talk to the parents, and in some cases we have issued citations when it's the same person over and over again. But it's not uncommon. It's just a matter of regular reminder sometimes of what is and what isn't expected.
Yes, because what I know, we had other studies of different streets, and I think it was 226 in the past, where there was a challenge with the fire department, the ambulance and police. In the event of an emergency, the humps are not practical to get to.
So when the study comes back, that'll be one of the issues that's discussed, because you're correct. Safety personnel never want speed bumps because obviously they're there to slow people down, and that would include them. That'll be a part of what comes back to you for a decision.
Sounds good.
Any other questions? Can I get a motion and a second to approve?
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 117-2019.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Council members Trimble and Farfan abstained, were recused. Item C6, ordinance number 586, first reading and introduction of ordinance amending the Hawaiian Gardens Municipal Code, Chapter 5.92, card clubs to comply with state law regarding work permit and minimum age requirements for card clubs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This item is effectively just to bring our Muni Code in compliance with state law. This year, the legislature approved and the governor signed into law Assembly Bill 649, which amends the Casino Gambling Control Act. Previously, prior to this bill passing, the rule had effectively been you have to be 21 years old to work in the casino, and you had to have a work permit to do that. They've made some exceptions for that. People 18 to 20 can work in certain limited areas of the casinos, and there's certain exceptions to the permit requirement. Effectively, you can work while your application is pending in certain scenarios also. They're limited in scope, and this is we're just making our municipal code, which had previously been consistent with state law, consistent with the new state law. So we're just updating it. The casino overlay in the zoning code cross-references this section, so we will at a later date bring back that zoning code amendment to also make it consistent. But that is, in short, what we're doing, if anyone has any questions.
I have a question. Are there currently at our casino 18-year-olds to 20-year-olds working right now?
No, it's not allowed.
And Newsom just signed this in the order, right? And he gave them till 2021, 2020?
Actually, January 1, it becomes effective. January 1 of 2020.
Oh, really?
So.
Oh, then just next month.
So, yes, that's part of the reason why this is also on the agenda tonight as far as urgency.
Oh, okay, because that... Well,
but,
yes.
I mean, just in talking to the Card Club management staff, as you know, they're our largest employer, and they actually have a difficult time filling certain positions, so this will help. On top of giving our residents an opportunity to work there.
And they have to fall under this because it's a state law, right?
Correct.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I second it.
Do we have to read it? Can you please read the title?
Ordinance number, hold on, let me make sure I'm reading the one. Ordinance number 586. Want me to read the full title? Okay. First reading of introduction of ordinance amending the Hawaiian Gardens Municipal Code, Chapter 5.92, card clubs to comply with the state laws regarding work permits and minimum age requirements for card clubs.
If I could clarify, could we include in your motion a motion to proceed by reading the title and waiving in full the reading of the full ordinance? We normally have that on our consent, but I don't think, based on how the agenda went tonight, we haven't taken that action, have we? We didn't have a consent item.
We don't, but under consent, the council action is to read by title only, waive further reading, and adopt urgency ordinance. Ordinance 586.
That's included in your motion to waive.
That is included in my motion.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a second,
Yes.
correct? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Item C7, we're going to continue that item until we have an update. And do we have any committee reports? Seeing none, do we have any new business? Seeing none, any oral reports?
I have one, Madam Mayor. Just because I'm in a good mood. Again, I do want to emphasize how difficult it was to get all this going over the weekend. Rihanna, Lucy, the city attorney, and some staff members really pulled it together. But I want to show off a plaque. Ms. Hollinsworth, I gave her this as a goal for the last year, and so she got me my heavy plaque I'm going to put in my office. It's the Government Finance Office Association Certificate of Achievement. So basically, per the auditors, they go through all the financials, and so it's a testament to the work that's been done in that department. So just wanted to say thank you.
Congratulations, Linda.
Congratulations, Linda.
Thank you. Good job. All right. Where's my certificate? I'm just kidding. I'm just joking, guys. Do we have any other oral reports? Oral council reports?
No, I just want to take the opportunity to, again, thank our staff for all the hard work. We know that this was a very difficult week for everybody, and they put in a lot of work hours to make this happen and to provide two different companies up here. And so we really appreciate the work that they do. And also to wish everybody, since we have a closed meeting, to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and be safe out there. So thank you.
Anybody else have any comments? No? I wanted to just also thank staff. I know last week we had a council meeting, and this week we had another one. And it's been a very busy time for the clerk's office and staff. And so thank you. I want to echo the sentiments of our city mayor, city manager and colleague, Luis Roa. I do appreciate staff, and I hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving. And for any residents watching this, on Friday, December the 6th, we'll be lighting our Christmas tree. So we invite everyone to come out on that day. Other than that, wishing everyone a safe holidays until the next meeting. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, just one more recognition. My apologies. We got word from the governor that the mayor got her, what is it, certified municipal clerk certificate. So she did get a certificate. So, but that's a big accomplishment. So,
congratulations to our mayor.
Thank you. I'm also in the city clerk business, like our city clerk. Anyway, so we do have a closed session. So at this time, if we can ask our city attorney to lead us into closed session.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The City Council will now convene in closed session pursuant to the item listed on the agenda under Agenda Item H1, pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4. We're back from closed session. The City Council met in closed session pursuant to the item listed on the agenda. No reportable action was taken.
Okay, so we will now adjourn to a regular City Council meeting to be held on Tuesday, December 10th, 2019 at 6 p.m. Next week's regularly scheduled council meeting we're going dark due to, it's been declared dark due to Thanksgiving. Yes. The meeting is now adjourned.